Hello everyone. I am the storyteller. Tonight, I'll tell you a story that glitters like neon but rots underneath. A story sewn into the pink carpets and smoky ceilings of the Flamingo in Las Vegas. Most folks think of the Strip as endless light, endless noise, a place that never truly sleeps. But that's a lie. Because in those hours when the tourists stagger to their rooms, and the machines sing to no one, something else wakes up. Something older than the desert, older than the city, older even than the gods the mobsters prayed to when they built it. You've probably heard the rules. Every strange job has them. Don't open the wrong door, don't look into certain mirrors. Don't answer voices calling your name after midnight. People laugh them off, call them superstition, casino ghost stories meant to spook rookies. But I know better. Because I lived them. It started when I was broke and desperate. And the Flamingo offered me a night shift security gig that sounded too good to be true. The pay was high. The questions were few. All I had to do was follow the guidelines. Relax. Watch the lights flicker just out of rhythm. And let me show you what happens when the dark in Las Vegas isn't just shadows. And whatever you do, don't ignore the mark. After my car broke down for the third time in a month and the repair bill was more than my rent, I started looking for work I swore I'd never touch, security. Not the daytime kind with tourists and easy patrols. The night kind. The kind nobody brags about. The Flamingo posted an overnight position. Pay was double what I made slinging drinks downtown. The application process was suspiciously easy. No interview. No background check. They hired me over the phone and told me to report to the employee entrance, midnight sharp, and ask for Mr. Alvarado. They didn't call it training. They didn't call it onboarding. They told me he'd give me the guidelines you'll need to follow. Not rules. Guidelines. I should have known something was wrong. But I was broke, and broke people don't question miracles. The first night. The employee entrance of the Flamingo isn't glamorous. No neon, no flamingo pink. Just a cinderblock hallway that smells like mildew and cigarettes. I buzzed in, and a man in his 60s waited with a clipboard. He had thinning hair, thick glasses, and a voice like dry paper. "You're the new one." "Yes, sir." "Don't call me sir. I'm just Alvarado. You'll be on rotation for overnight floor watch. I've only got one job, to keep you alive long enough to learn the rest yourself." Alive. He said it like it was normal. Like he was talking about making it through a construction site or war zone. Alvarado handed me a laminated sheet. Pink ink, faded with time, bullet points typed on an old typewriter. Guidelines for overnight staff, Flamingo Hotel and Casino. I'll copy them here exactly as they were given to me. 1. Between midnight and 3:33 a.m., keep every hallway light on. If a bulb flickers, replace it immediately. Don't leave a hallway dark. 2. If you see a guest in the casino past 2 a.m., do not approach. Watch from a distance. If they acknowledge you, nod once and walk away. 3. The service elevator will sometimes open by itself. If it's empty, leave it alone. If it's occupied, count the occupants. If you see more than one shadow per person, call me. 4. Between 3:33 and 4:44 a.m., patrol the rooftop terrace. Do not look west. No matter what you hear. 5. If you hear wings indoors, stand still until the sound stops. Do not breathe heavily. Do not speak. 6. At sunrise, do not look directly at the Flamingo neon. Keep your eyes down until the lights shut off automatically. I laughed when I read them. Couldn't help it. They sounded like something you'd find in a creepypasta thread. Alvarado didn't laugh. He just looked at me over his glasses, the way teachers do when they know you're about to regret your own mouth. Do exactly what that sheet says, and you'll be fine. Ignore it, and you'll last maybe a week. I wanted to ask what the hell he meant, but he cut me off. Shift starts now. First night's easy. Just follow the lights. I'd been in casinos plenty, but never empty. The place looked wrong without crowds, carpets patterned with pink flamingos, rows of slot machines frozen mid-spin, cocktail napkins abandoned like shed skin. The silence had weight, like sound was being sucked away instead of absent. The first guideline seemed simple: keep the hallway lights on. Easy. Except bulbs did flicker. Constantly. I thought it was just the cheap maintenance of an old casino, but the longer I worked, the more I noticed the timing. Always between 12:15 and 12:30. Always 3 flickers, pause, then 1 long dim. By my third round, I stopped thinking bad wiring and started thinking pattern. At 2:17 a.m., I saw him. A guest, alone, feeding quarters into a machine in the far corner. He wore a blue suit that looked older than the carpeting. Nobody should have been there. The place was shut down. I remembered guideline 2, do not approach. Watch from a distance. So I watched. The slot machine lit up with every pull, but the man never reacted. His face was gray, flat, like a mannequin's. I realized something then: he hadn't put money in. The machine kept spinning anyway. The man turned his head. Slowly. Like it cost him something. His eyes met mine. I panicked. Guidelines said, nod once. Walk away. So I nodded. He nodded back. Then I turned, forcing my legs not to sprint, and left the casino floor. When I looked back, the machine was dark. He was gone. At 2:50 a.m., I heard the elevator bell. I was the only one supposed to be using it. I rounded the corner, and sure enough, the service elevator stood open. Empty. Guideline 3, if it's empty, leave it alone. So I left it. I forced myself not to check inside. Not to push any buttons. I turned the corner. And the bell rang again. I went back. Still open. Still empty. But the lights inside flickered like water reflections. And I swear I heard whispering. Not words. Just syllables, stretched out, circling each other like smoke. I didn't go in. That was the first time I felt real fear. Not nerves, not unease. Fear. At 3:40 a.m., I took the elevator up to the rooftop terrace. Vegas sprawled out in every direction: neon, headlights, the desert beyond. Guideline 4, do not look west. Of course, I wanted to. Curiosity chewed at me. But something about the wording not, don't go west, not, don't stand there, but don't look felt loaded. I stood at the edge, facing east, pretending to take in the strip. And then I heard it. A woman's voice. Behind me. Soft, melodic, rising and falling like a lullaby. She spoke my name. I gripped the railing until my knuckles ached. The guidelines said nothing about hearing voices. Only about looking. So I didn't turn. The voice circled me. I could feel her breath on my ear. It was cool, damp, like night air on water. And then, wings. Huge, unseen, sweeping past overhead. I stood there until my legs shook, staring east, never west, until my watch hit 4:44. The moment the time passed, the air lightened. The voice stopped. At 6 a.m., I dragged myself back down to the lobby. Exhausted, but alive. Guideline 6, do not look directly at the Flamingo neon. I didn't understand that one until I saw it. As the sun broke over the desert, the pink neon Flamingo logo outside glowed brighter than the daylight. Brighter than should have been possible. My eyes burned just glancing at it. The edges of the light rippled, almost organic, like feathers in motion. I looked down. Waited until the hum of the transformer cut off. When I raised my head again, the sign looked normal. Alvarado was waiting. "You did fine," he said. "Most people don't make it past the first night." I wanted to ask what the hell was going on. Who the man at the slot machine was. Who whispered on the roof. Why the neon felt alive. But all I said was, "When do I get the rest of the guidelines?" Alvarado smiled. "When you're ready to see the night for what it really is." If you ever work security at the Flamingo, hell, maybe anywhere in Vegas, memorize the guidelines. Don't question them in the moment. Curiosity gets you dead faster than stupidity. And if you hear wings indoors, don't move. Don't breathe. Don't speak. She notices. I didn't sleep when I got home. Not right away. My body was exhausted, but my brain wouldn't shut off. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the man at the slot machine. His mannequin face. The way his eyes turned like they were dragging against rust. I kept replaying the rooftop to the voice, the wings. I didn't tell anyone about it. Who could I tell? My sister already thought I was reckless for taking the job. If I called her and said, "Hey, the goddess of night whispered my name on the roof of the Flamingo," she'd drive over just to smack me. So I went back the next night. Because rent doesn't wait for sanity. Second night in, Alvarado didn't greet me at the entrance. He left the clipboard, the keys, and the same faded laminated sheet in my locker. On the back, in his handwriting, one extra note. "The elevator will test you. Do not be polite." That was it. No explanation. At 1:30 a.m., the bell rang. I turned the corner, and this time the elevator wasn't empty. A man stood inside. Not the slot machine guy. Different. He was dressed like a bellhop from another century, burgundy jacket, brass buttons, cap tilted just so. His smile was paper thin, stretched too wide, like a stage performer who forgot the act ended hours ago. "Going up?" he asked. His voice had a grain to it, like a radio broadcast caught between stations. I remembered Alvarado's note. "Do not be polite." So I didn't answer. Didn't move. Just watched. The man's smile froze. His eyes blinked once, twice, too many times in a row, like a skip in a film reel. Then the doors closed. The elevator descended. Past ground level. Past basement. I heard it groan deeper than any building should go. The hallway lights fought me that night. Guideline 1, keep every hallway light on. But the bulbs didn't just flicker like before. Whole sections went dark. Always the same way, east wing first, then west, then back again. Like something was pacing me. I carried a pocket full of spares and swapped them out as fast as I could, hands shaking. Sometimes the old bulbs were warm, like they'd been burning twice as hot. Once, one hissed when I dropped it into my bag, like it was still alive. Every time a hallway went black, the temperature dropped. Not the AC kind of cold. This was damp, heavy, like the air itself grew thicker. And in that darkness, I heard wings. I held my breath, pressed against the wall until the sound faded. Then I screwed in another bulb, trying not to think about what would happen if I ran out. At 2:22 a.m., I saw him again. The man in the blue suit, sitting at the same slot machine. Only this time, he wasn't alone. Beside him sat a woman. Her dress was sequined pink, old Hollywood style, backless, slit high. She leaned against him like they were lovers, but her face was hidden behind a white Venetian mask. Both of them turned, together, and looked at me. Guideline 2, do not approach. Nod once. Walk away. I nodded. But the woman didn't nod back. She tilted her head, bird-like, sharp. Her mask glinted under the machine's lights, and I swear the feathers etched into it weren't carved. They moved. I walked away. Fast. When I passed back 15 minutes later, both were gone. The machine still spun. No coins. Just endless reels, like time itself caught in a loop. 3:33 a.m. came faster than I wanted. Guideline 4, patrol the rooftop terrace. Do not look west. The moment I stepped outside, the desert air hit me. Warm, dry, buzzing with neon hum. But I wasn't alone. There was someone already on the terrace. A girl, maybe 20, smoking on the railing. Her hair was jet black, cut sharp. Her eyes glowed faintly, not a trick of the light, not reflection. Actual glow, like watch dials in the dark. She looked at me, smiled faintly. "You've been listening," she said. I froze. She tapped her cigarette, scattering ash into the desert wind. Most don't. They hear the wings, they look. You didn't. That's why she likes you. Who? My voice cracked. She tilted her chin west. I didn't follow her gaze. She's always been here, the girl said softly. Long before neon. Long before this desert was desert. They built the strip to keep her busy. But the lights don't hold her forever. That's why the rules matter. Her eyes locked on mine. Don't break them. Not unless you're ready to be weighed. And then she was gone. Not walked away. Not slipped inside. Gone. The cigarette but glowed on the ground where she'd been standing. By 6 a.m., I stumbled back down to the lobby, more rattled than the night before. This time, I tried not to glance at the neon sign at all. But curiosity itched. Just a quick peek, I told myself. The flamingo outline pulsed brighter, feathers shifting, wings stretching wider. For half a second, I saw her. Not a sign. Not a bird. A figure draped in shadow, feathers spreading from her shoulders, face hidden in night. The moment I looked away, my eyes burned with afterimage. Like staring at an eclipse. Alvarado was waiting again. He didn't ask how it went. Just handed me a cup of burnt coffee and said, "You saw her. Didn't you?" I didn't answer. He sighed. "You've got two choices, kid. Quit now, before she notices you. Or keep working until you understand who you're guarding against." Guarding against? I repeated. You think casinos run on money? They run on time. Night and day. Shift and cycle. She owns the night. Always has. The flamingo we just rented from her. He leaned in close, voice a whisper. Nix. I don't know how long I'll last here. Maybe the pay isn't worth it. Maybe Alvarado's right and I should walk. But something in me needs to understand. Needs to know why the goddess of night is haunting a hotel with pink carpets and half-dead slot machines. If you take this job, keep the lights burning. Never look west. And if a guest looks back at you, nod. Then pray they don't stand up. The third night started before I even clocked in. I was halfway through the employee corridor when I heard it, wings. Slow, deliberate, brushing the cinderblock walls. Guideline 5, if you hear wings indoors, stand still until the sound stops. Do not breathe heavily. Do not speak. So I froze. Bag strap digging into my shoulder, heart hammering loud enough I thought she'd hear it. The sound circled me, close. Feathers brushing air. Then nothing. When I looked up, the laminated sheet was taped to my locker again. Same 6 rules. Except this time, someone had underlined the 5th rule in pink pen. 3 times. I thought I'd gotten used to the hallway lights. Screw in a bulb, problem solved. Not tonight. At 12:40 a.m., the east wing went black. Every single bulb. One after another, pop pop pop, like firecrackers. The air changed instantly. Heavy. Damp. Smelled like old rain. I scrambled to replace them, hands shaking so bad I dropped the first two spares. They shattered on the carpet. When I finally got one screwed in, light bloomed but the hallway didn't look right. The wallpaper shifted, pink flamingos twisting into darker shapes. Wings outstretched. Eyes glowing faint yellow, like predators watching from branches. I replaced 3 more bulbs before the hallway looked normal again. But I swear the flamingos kept turning their heads as I passed. 2:03 a.m., casino floor. He was back. Same blue suit, same machine. Only this time, there were 3 of them. Not identical copies. No, each one slightly wrong. One too tall, neck stretched. One too wide, shoulders crowding into the next. One thin as a scarecrow. They pulled the levers in sync. The slot machine spun faster than possible, reels blurring into black and white stripes. My stomach dropped. I remembered the rule, if you see a guest, do not approach. Nod once. Walk away. I nodded. Only one of them nodded back. The other 2 smiled. Their teeth were black. I walked away, pulse thundering in my ears, not daring to look back. At 2:48 a.m., the elevator dinged again. This time, the bellhop wasn't inside. Instead, it was packed. 10 people crammed shoulder to shoulder, all facing forward. Their clothes were wrong dated, 1940s Vegas style. Bow ties, cocktail dresses, feathered headpieces. Each one stiff, rigid, like mannequins posed for display. I counted shadows on the floor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then I stopped. Because the shadows moved out of sync. The woman in the feathered headpiece leaned forward. Her body didn't move, just her shadow. It stretched across the floor like a pool of ink, reaching toward me. Guideline 3, if you see more than one shadow per person, call Alvarado. My radio crackled before I could touch it. His voice came through, strained, step back. Don't talk. Don't even breathe. Just let it close. The doors slid shut. The elevator descended. Deeper. Groaning like the foundation itself was giving way. At 3:33 a.m., I stepped onto the rooftop terrace. I kept my eyes east. Always east. Neon spilling over the strip, thunderclouds far out in the desert. But the west it called. Voices. Not whispers this time. Singing. Hundreds of them. A choir, rising and falling, like a liturgy older than any church. My eyes strained against the urge. Muscles twitching, neck pulling to turn. Then footsteps beside me. The black-haired girl again. Same faint glow in her eyes. You're holding, she said softly. Good. That's the only thing that matters. What's west? I asked. My voice cracked in the dry air. Her throne. The singing swelled. The girl smiled sadly. She doesn't need worshippers anymore. Just watchers. That's why you're here. I gripped the railing tighter, knuckles white. Watchers? She tilted her head, studied me. The strip is her altar. Every bulb, every flicker, it's not electricity. It's offering. The voices crescendoed. I wanted to scream. To look. To end the tension. The girl leaned close, whispering. Don't give her your eyes. Not yet. And then she was gone again. 6 a.m. The neon burned brighter than the desert sun. I kept my gaze down, watching the patterned carpet blur. But curiosity clawed at me. What would happen if I looked full on? No quick glance. No half-second peek. What if I stared into it? I almost did. Almost lifted my eyes. But then I heard wings above the lobby. Wide. Powerful. Beating slow, deliberate. And I knew, she was waiting for me to slip. So I kept my head down until the transformer cut out. When I finally looked up, the sign was normal. Pink, tacky, dated. But the afterimage burned. Feathers unfolding in the dark. He was waiting again. "You're changing," he said flatly. "What do you mean?" "She's testing you. The first week is always tests. Lights. Guests. Elevator. Rooftop. Neon. If you make it through, you're marked." "Marked how?" He didn't answer right away. Just sipped coffee from a paper cup. Finally, "Nyx doesn't like mortals who break her rhythm. But she loves the ones who keep it. Loves them too much." He leaned close. "That's the real danger. Not death. Not madness. Devotion. The rules don't change. But you will. That's the trap. Follow them long enough and you stop thinking about why. You stop asking questions. And one night, you'll want to break them. Just to see her. Just to understand. Don't. Not unless you're ready to let the night keep you." I don't remember driving to work that night. One second I was brushing my teeth, the next I was inside the employee corridor, locker open, uniform already on. The laminated rule sheet was waiting again. Same 6 rules. Except this time, someone had circled the first one in thick black marker. Keep every hallway light on. Like I needed reminding. But something about it rattled me. Like whoever circled it wasn't Alvarado. The first hour passed normal. Patrol, check doors, swap one busted bulb. Then I blinked, and it was 2 a.m. Not 12:15. Not 1:40. Just jump. The radio crackled. Alvarado's voice, "You lost some time, didn't you?" I froze. "How'd you?" "Doesn't matter. She's folding it. Don't fight it. Fighting makes it worse." "What does that mean?" But the radio cut to static. 2:17 a.m., casino floor. The man in the blue suit was back. So was the masked woman. And behind them? Rows. Dozens. All seated at machines, all spinning reels in perfect rhythm. The sound was unbearable, metal clinks, tumbling reels, all synchronized like a heartbeat. Every one of them turned to look at me. Not together. One after another. A ripple of gazes spreading across the floor until every machine stopped. Guideline 2 screamed in my head, "Nod once. Walk away." So I did. But the sound followed. Even 3 hallways away, I still heard the clink-clink-clink of reels spinning. At 2:44 a.m., the elevator doors opened on their own. No bellhop. No crowd of mannequins. Just empty. But the carpet inside wasn't carpet. It was feathers. Black feathers, layered thick, piled ankle-deep. The air smelled like rain. Ozone. Night storms rolling in. The panel lights flickered, and for half a second every floor button read the same word. Nyx. I stumbled back. The doors closed. The feathers were gone. I reached for my radio. My watch said 2:50. I blinked. It was 3:33. I was already on the rooftop. I didn't remember climbing the stairs. Didn't remember the terrace door slamming behind me. But the west was loud tonight. The choir sang louder than before, overlapping in strange harmonies, voices rising until it felt like the concrete itself vibrated. I gripped the railing, forcing my eyes east. The strip glowed. Cars moved. Life continued. But the singing kept climbing. It wasn't worship anymore. It was command. Then a hand touched my shoulder. The black-haired girl again. Her eyes burned brighter. "She's pulling harder," she whispered. "Why me?" I rasped. Her smile was pitying. "Because you haven't broken yet." 6 a.m. was supposed to be sunrise. But no light came. The casino stayed dark, humming under emergency fluorescence. The neon flamingo outside burned hotter than ever, pulsing like a heart. I stared, just for a second. The sign moved. Not the glow. Not the outline. The actual metal frame bent, wings stretching wider, feathers curling outward. And behind it shadow. Deeper than shadow. Like the sky itself was tearing open. Wings beat, slow and deliberate. I fell to my knees. Covered my ears. When I looked again, the sign was still. Sunrise pouring through the glass doors like nothing had happened. But the afterimage stayed. Feathers. Feathers everywhere. He found me in the lobby, sitting against the wall, shaking. "She's breaking time," he said simply. "What does that mean?" "You felt it. Hours missing. Steps skipped. That's her. She doesn't move through night. She is night. The rules don't protect you from her. They keep you inside her rhythm." I swallowed hard. "So what happens if I fall out of rhythm?" His eyes were heavy, tired. "You don't fall. You get folded. Like paper. It isn't just about the rules anymore. It's about time. About keeping pace. Every light bulb, every nod, every step, it's not protection. It's worship. And I think the longer I follow them, the more she notices me. The more she wants me." I woke up at my apartment door with no memory of leaving work. Keys in hand. Uniform half-buttoned. The doormat was scattered with black feathers. By the time I punched in, Alvarado was waiting. He looked worse than me, eyes bloodshot, shirt wrinkled, hands trembling as he handed me the flashlight. "She's pressing harder," he said. "Stay on rhythm tonight." Rhythm? Every step, every nod, every light bulb. Don't skip. Don't hesitate. I wanted to press him, but the rule sheet was back on the desk. Same 6 rules. Same circle around 1. Somehow it felt heavier. Like the paper itself didn't want to be lifted. The casino at 12:03. The place was wrong the second I hit the floor. The machines weren't on. No hum. No reels. No jackpots. But every guest, the man in the blue suit, the masked woman, the rows behind them, they were frozen at their machines, hands poised above the spin buttons. Breathing in unison. I almost broke and stared. But the rule hammered in my skull, nod once. Walk away. So I nodded, walked, forced my legs to keep pace. Behind me, I heard them all exhale at the same time. At 1:22 a.m., the west hallway lights flickered. The bulbs hissed, dimmed, then steadied. And a voice slid through the intercom. Not Alvarado's voice. Not any human voice. Lower. Older. Velvet smooth, but threaded with something that made my chest ache. "You're keeping my lights on," it purred. "Good boy." I froze. The intercom crackled, went silent. Then the bulbs flared bright, almost blinding. I whispered to myself, keep moving. Keep moving. Next thing I knew, I was in the ballroom. No memory of walking there. Empty tables stretched in rows, chairs stacked against the walls. Except someone had written on the mirrored wall in lipstick. Not all rules are written. The glass behind the writing rippled. For a second, I swore I saw a horizon, dark waves crashing under a starless sky. Then it was just my reflection. Sweat running down my face. Around 2:50, I heard footsteps in the stairwell. Slow. Heavier than they should have been. I gripped the flashlight and pushed the door open. The stairwell wasn't concrete anymore. It was stone. Black marble, polished smooth, winding upward into a ceiling I couldn't see. At the bottom, shadows churned like smoke, twisting into shapes that almost looked like wings. And the voice again, closer this time. Climb, if you dare. The higher you go, the closer you come to me. The rules screamed in my head. None of them said climb. None of them said answer. So I shut the door. And ran. At 4:10 a.m., I finally cornered Alvarado near the service elevator. She talked to me, I hissed. Over the intercom. In the stairwell. He didn't look surprised. She always talks when you're close to breaking rhythm. That's how she tests you. Not with claws. With questions. Then what happens if I answer? He swallowed, jaw tight. Then you're no longer working here. You're working for her. At 5:55, I stood in the lobby, staring east. Waiting. Begging for light. And at 6 o'clock, nothing. No sunrise. No glow. The strip outside looked drained of color, like the neon had bled out. The only brightness came from the giant Flamingo sign. It pulsed again, wings stretching wider, sparks raining from the tips of its feathers. And over the radio, her voice, not Alvarado's, whispered. Why worship the sun when you could belong to night? My knees buckled. I don't remember falling. Only waking on the floor, daylight streaming in. The sun was up. Everything was normal. But my radio was dead, its casing scorched black like it had been struck by lightning. She's speaking now. Testing me. The rules aren't just about safety. They're about rhythm, staying inside a pattern she can't break. But the moment you slip, the moment you pause too long, or look too closely, or answer her, that's when she pulls you in. Not with claws. Not with teeth. With her voice. When I showed up for my shift, the rule sheet wasn't on the desk anymore. It was taped to the inside of the break room fridge. The paper looked wet around the edges, like it had been soaked and dried again. The circle around Rule 1 was thicker than ever, as if someone had traced it over and over, until the pen tore the paper. Alvarado didn't say a word when I arrived. Not, stay sharp, not, watch the floor. Just handed me the flashlight and walked away. That was worse than any warning. Midnight, near the roulette tables. The same frozen crowd was there, hands hovering over spin buttons, eyes dead forward. I nodded once. But then I hesitated. Just half a second too long. The man in the blue suit turned his head. Not a twitch. Not a glitch. A deliberate turn. His mouth opened like he was about to scream. But what came out wasn't a scream. It was her voice. You see me, don't you? My stomach dropped. I walked fast. Too fast. Nearly broke into a run before forcing myself to slow down. Behind me, the machines all blinked at once. Like they'd been reset. 1:40 a.m., lobby mirrors. The glass didn't show me. It showed a hallway of stars, no floor, no walls, just a corridor carved out of night. In the reflection, I wasn't standing. I was kneeling. Hands clasped like I was praying. And behind me, wings unfolded. Vast. Blacker than black. Her voice came through the mirror, not the air. Why play their game when you could play mine? I turned away before I could answer. I nearly said yes. At 2:30, I caught Alvarado near the service stairwell, lighting a cigarette with shaking hands. She's talking to me, I said. Through the guests. The mirrors. Everywhere. He blew smoke, eyes wild. That's how she hunts. Not with claws. With questions. She'll make you think you want to answer. What happens if I do? You won't be guarding the Flamingo anymore. You'll be guarding her. He threw the cigarette down hard, grinding it out. You don't want to know what that looks like. The elevator at 3:13. The guest elevator dinged. Doors slid open. No one inside. But the overhead speaker whispered, "Come in. Just press the button. I'll take you where the rules don't matter." I clenched my fists. The rule sheet burned in my memory. Never step into a darkened elevator between midnight and sunrise. The car wasn't dark. But the voice made it feel like it was. I shut the doors. They hissed open again. This time the interior was pitch black, no lights at all. "Coward," she purred. I hit the emergency stop, jammed the button until the doors sealed. And ran. At 4:05, I caught sight of the casino ceiling. Except it wasn't ceiling anymore. It was sky. A sky without stars. Without moon. Just vast, endless nothing. Her voice drifted down like a lullaby. All I ask is one look. One answer. One word. I covered my ears. Didn't help. Her voice wasn't sound. It was thought. And my thoughts weren't safe anymore. I waited in the lobby for sunrise. But at 6 o'clock, nothing changed. No glow. No warmth. The strip outside looked like cardboard cutouts under a blacklight. And she laughed through the radio, through the mirrors, through my own head. Why wait for their sun? I can give you night forever. I dropped to my knees, clutching the flashlight like it was a weapon. And just when I thought she'd pull me under, the light changed. 6:01. The real sun broke over the strip. The casino blinked, reset. Everything normal. She isn't waiting for me to break the rules. She's baiting me. Every night, she pushes harder. Closer. She wants me to talk back. The rules aren't about keeping her out. They're about keeping me quiet. Because the second I answer even one word I think she'll own me. When I clocked in, the rules weren't where they should be. Not taped to the fridge. Not on the desk. They were on the floor. Scattered like playing cards. And they weren't the same. The changed list. There were still 6. But the wording was different. 1. Do not look directly at the guests between 12:004:00 a.m. 2. If a guest asks for directions, give none. 3. Never step into an elevator when it opens for you. 4. Keep the lights on. Always. 5. Patrol the west hallway by 2 a.m. Don't stop. Don't turn. 6. Never answer when she speaks. Number 6 hadn't been there before. I swear to God it hadn't. The handwriting was the same. The ink the same. But it was new. Fresh. Like it had been waiting for me. I found Alvarado at the back stairwell. Did you rewrite the rules? He looked at me like I'd slapped him. They don't change. They did. I shoved the paper at him. Look at 6. He glanced. His jaw worked. And then he crumpled the sheet and stuffed it in his pocket. You didn't see that. The hell I didn't. Listen, he snapped, his voice raw, if you start believing the paper changes, it means she's inside you already. And if she's inside you, you won't last the week. The guests at 12:10. The casino floor was full again. Every seat taken. Hands above the buttons. Breathing together. But this time they all turned when I walked past. Not just one. Every single guest's head tilted toward me, eyes empty. And they spoke in unison. Answer her. I nodded once. Kept walking. But my chest felt hollow, like I'd left something behind. At 1:45, the ballroom doors stood open. I shouldn't have looked. Inside, the tables weren't tables. They were stone slabs. Black marble, slick as oil. Candles floated mid-air, flames guttering in a wind I couldn't feel. And at the far end, a figure sat. Wings folded. Face hidden. Her voice came from everywhere and nowhere. Why do you fear me? You already keep my house. I shut the doors. But the handle burned cold in my hand, like frost. At 3:20, Alvarado came over the radio. His voice was low, frantic. Don't answer her. Even in thought. Don't you dare. Static swallowed the rest. Then, clear as daylight, her voice slid through. He's already mine. He just hasn't admitted it yet. I wanted to throw the radio. Instead I turned it off. And that's when I realized, the rules didn't say I couldn't. They'd never mentioned the radio at all. At 4:55, the neon flamingo outside pulsed brighter than ever. The wings stretched wider, feathers dripping sparks. And the sky above the strip wasn't sky anymore. It was feathers. Layer upon layer of black plumage, folding over the buildings like a storm. She whispered through the glass. One word. That's all. One word, and you'll never be alone again. My throat worked. My lips parted. But I slammed them shut. And ran until my legs gave out. At 6 o'clock, the strip lit up with color. The sky snapped back to blue. But the rule sheet was waiting for me on the lobby desk. Fresh ink. Fresh circle. Number 7 added. 7, never run. My hands shook as I read it. I had run. And yet here I was. Alive. So why did it feel like I just signed a contract I didn't understand? The rules do change. Don't let anyone tell you different. And when they do, you won't know which ones came from the casino. And which ones came from her. When I walked into the break room, Alvarado was already there. But something was wrong. He was sitting at the table with the rule sheet spread out in front of him, tracing the words with his fingertip. Over and over. Whispering them like a prayer. He didn't even look up when I set down my bag. They've changed before, he muttered. Long before you. Long before me. They always change. I froze. You said they didn't. He laughed, hollow. You think I'd still be here if I admitted it? No. You play dumb. You follow what's written, whether it's the casino or her. And you hope the sun comes up. I didn't know what to say. So I said nothing. Midnight shift. At 12:05, the casino was worse than ever. The guests weren't just sitting at the machines. They were standing now. All of them. Rows upon rows, shoulder to shoulder, facing the same direction. Toward me. I nodded once. But Alvarado didn't. He froze. The crowd exhaled, a sound like wind through broken glass. And then in one voice, perfect and synchronized, they said. Answer her. Alvarado stumbled back, clutching his chest. I grabbed his arm and dragged him through the service corridor, my pulse hammering. We didn't stop until we hit the kitchen. The kitchen was dark. Should have been lit. The rules said keep the lights on. I reached for the switch. Alvarado stopped me, his hand cold and shaking. "She's in the light tonight," he whispered. "Don't you see?" She switched it. I stared at him, throat tight. "She can't." "She can," he hissed. "She can change everything." And before I could stop him, he smashed the bulbs with the butt of his flashlight. Glass rained down. Darkness swallowed the room. And in the dark wings rustled. It wasn't over the intercom this time. It was right there. Filling the kitchen. Filling me. He's right. The rules are mine now. Why cling to their order when you could belong to me? I pressed my hands over my ears. Alvarado didn't. He was shaking, eyes wide, mouth open. "Just tell me what you want," he whispered into the dark. "Please just tell me the rules that matter." The air grew colder. And she answered. But I couldn't understand the words. They weren't words. They were stars collapsing. Night folding in on itself. A language that wasn't for human throats. And Alvarado nodded like he understood. Like he'd been waiting his whole life to hear it. When the lights snapped back on, the kitchen was empty. Glass on the floor. The rule sheet pinned under a knife. And written in Alvarado's handwriting across the bottom. Rule 8, never leave her unanswered. At 6 o'clock, the strip lit up like always. But I couldn't feel relief. Not with Alvarado gone. Not with Rule 8 staring at me in his hand. And not with the sound still echoing in my head, that impossible language, whispering under everything else, waiting for me to repeat it. She doesn't need all of us. She just needs one of us to answer. And once you do, you're gone. Not dead. Not missing. Gone. Serving something older than Las Vegas, older than this desert, older than the sun itself. Alvarado was gone when the shift ended. No sign of him in the kitchen. No sign of him anywhere. But the rule sheet was back on the desk. 8 rules. All in the same hand. All circled. The first 2 hours were calm. Too calm. The casino floor was empty. No frozen guests, no whispers, no crowd. Just slot machines humming like they were trying to breathe. For the first time in weeks, I almost let myself believe I'd get a clean night. Then the elevator dinged. The doors slid open, and Alvarado stepped out. Uniform crisp. Flashlight in hand. But his eyes. They were black. Not dark. Black. Like holes cut out of his face. And when he smiled, it wasn't Alvarado's smile. It was wider. Wrong. Shifts easier with 2, he said. His voice was steady, but deeper. Like someone else was speaking through him. He walked beside me down the west hallway. Every step in rhythm. Every nod perfect. But I could feel it. The air bent around him. And when I glanced sideways, just quick, I saw wings flicker out from his back. Shadow wings, stretching and vanishing again. "You don't have to be afraid," he said. "She doesn't want to hurt you. She wants to teach you." I didn't answer. He chuckled low, like he already knew I wanted to. At 2:10, we passed the lobby mirrors. My reflection was there. Pale, sweating, eyes red. Alvarado's wasn't. Instead, the glass showed a towering figure behind me, wings spread, eyes like burning coals. The reflection leaned close and whispered, though Alvarado's mouth never moved. "You don't have to wait for the rules to change. Just ask me." I'll tell you the true ones. I looked away so hard my neck cracked. Around 3 o'clock, he stopped by the stairwell and lit a cigarette. The smoke curled wrong. It drifted down instead of up. You know why I lasted this long? He asked. I didn't want to know. But he told me anyway. I answered her years ago. Just once. One word. Didn't even know I'd said it out loud. He exhaled, the smoke curling down into the cracks in the floor. She let me keep working. Kept the rules in front of me. Gave me a purpose. All she asked was that I never walk away. His eyes locked on mine. And now she's asking you. At 4:45, we stepped outside. The giant Flamingo blazed overhead, brighter than ever. The neon wings stretched across the sky like they were about to blot out the stars. Alvarado tipped his head back and laughed. She's not hiding anymore. She doesn't need to. I wanted to argue. To scream. To run. But I remembered Rule 7, never run. And Rule 8, in his handwriting, never leave her unanswered. The rules were folding in on themselves. Twisting. Trapping. 6 o'clock, almost. At dawn, the strip stayed black. The sun didn't rise. I thought I'd lost. Then Alvarado turned to me, eyes burning holes, smile carved too wide. She wants you on the next shift. Don't disappoint her. And then. The light snapped back. Day exploded across the street. Normal. But Alvarado was gone. Again. He's not gone. He's working both shifts now. Hers and mine. And if I answer her, even once, I'll be walking beside him. Forever. The rule sheet was waiting for me on the desk again. But this time, there were 9. 18 were the same. 9, you will choose. No circle. No warning. Just those 3 words, written in ink that hadn't dried yet. The first hour. The casino was empty. Not quiet. Empty. No guests. No machines. Even the air vents were silent, like the whole building was holding its breath. Every step I took echoed too long. Like the walls weren't walls anymore. Like I was walking inside a throat. At 12:40, the elevator opened. Alvarado stepped out. Same crisp uniform. Same flashlight. Eyes still black. She wants you to stop pretending, he said. I didn't answer. He smiled. That's good. Not yet. At 1:30, we hit the west hallway. Alvarado stopped in the middle. You know the rule, he said. Patrol it by 2. Don't stop. Don't turn. I nodded. He blocked my path. Tonight, she wants you to break it. My throat went dry. She says stop walking. Right here. Stay still until the lights go out. The hallway bulbs flickered, humming louder. She's waiting. I stood frozen. Every instinct screamed at me to move. To keep walking. But the new Rule 9 was a knife in my head. You will choose. If I moved, I was defying her. If I stopped, I was breaking the casino. Either way, I was stepping off the map. Alvarado leaned close, breath cold as ice. She doesn't care which side you pick. She only cares that you pick her. The lights buzzed harder. Then one by one, they blew. Pop pop pop. The hallway went black. And in that dark, wings stretched over me. Feathers brushed my shoulders, my arms, the back of my neck. Her voice was everywhere at once. Stand still. You've already chosen. I almost said something. Almost gave her the word she wanted. But I clenched my jaw so tight my teeth ached. Didn't move. Didn't speak. When the bulbs flared back on, Alvarado was gone. No footsteps. No sound. Just vanished. And on the floor in front of me, written in ash. Rule 10, the game ends when you speak. The sun came late. 6:12. For 12 minutes, the strip outside was a dead city under black sky. Then light cracked it open like an egg. The casino reset. But the ash was still there in the hallway. Rule 10. Waiting for me to slip. She doesn't want me to die. She wants me to play. And when I finally open my mouth, it won't be me talking anymore. The clock on my phone hit 6 a.m. But the sky didn't change. Normally, sunrise is my salvation. By the time the first yellow light cracks the horizon, the building loosens its grip. The rules fade, the hum dies down, and I can breathe again. Not this morning. 6 o'clock passed. 6:15. 6:45. Still dark. The strip outside looked like it had been painted black. Even the neon lights had gone flat, like someone pulled the plug on the world. I tried the staff exit. The door opened fine. But outside wasn't outside. It was the same hallway. Same pink carpet. Same humming bulbs. I walked it twice just to be sure, but every time I stepped out, the damn corridor folded back on itself. Like the building had grown teeth. At 7:20, the radio buzzed. Not static. Not voices. A ticking. Like a clock I couldn't see. Then Alvarado's voice came through. Shift isn't over. Not until she says so. I snapped the radio off. 2 minutes later, he was standing at the end of the hall. Hands behind his back. Smile too wide. You thought you were done. I didn't answer. She's showing you the truth. Time doesn't belong to you. It belongs to her. At 8 o'clock, I pulled the rule sheet from my pocket. 8 rules. Then 9. Then 10. But Rule 1, the casino closes at 6 a.m. was crossed out. In black ink. And underneath, written in cramped handwriting. The casino closes when she finishes. I patrolled like normal. 1 a.m. West Hallway. 3:15 Casino Floor. 4:30 South Stairwell. Only time didn't matter anymore. The clock on my phone froze at 4:30. The wall clock said 11:59. My watch ticked backwards. And the windows. The windows didn't show the strip. They showed feathers. Millions of black feathers pressed against the glass like storm clouds. Every so often one would peel away, drift slow, and dissolve into ash. At 9 o'clock, I think, I sat in the break room. Head in my hands. The vending machine flicked on by itself. Every button lit up at once. And behind the hum of the bulbs, I heard her whisper. All you have to do is say it. Speak, and the night will end. My throat ached. Every nerve in my body begged me to scream, to curse, to shout her name. But Rule 10 burned in my skull. The game ends when you speak. I bit my tongue until I tasted blood. She laughed. Soft. Sweet. Like a mother soothing a child. Don't worry. You'll give me your voice when you're ready. I must have dozed off. Because when I opened my eyes, the ash writing had changed. It didn't say, Rule 10 anymore. It said, you've already spoken. You just don't remember. The Flamingo doesn't look like a casino anymore. Not to me. At midnight, I left the break room and found the hallway doubled back on itself. Not a trick of memory. The carpet looped like an Escher drawing, pink and green swirls folding into themselves. I walked for 15 minutes without hitting the lobby. When I finally turned around, the break room door was behind me, even though I'd walked in a straight line. At 1 o'clock, I checked the lobby windows. The strip was gone. In its place, a churning sky of black feathers. Clouds of them, swarming and stretching forever. Every so often, a single feather would press against the glass, huge as a billboard. Veined, glistening, humming with low static. When the glass shivered, I knew she was listening. At 2:30, Alvarado appeared again. No footsteps. Just there. He gestured down a side hall I'd never seen before. "You should see what she's made for you." I didn't want to. But my legs carried me anyway. The corridor twisted into a spiral staircase, carpet peeling back into stone. Ancient. Sand-colored. Like I was walking into a tomb hidden inside a Vegas hotel. At the bottom, a chamber lined with mirrors. Only they weren't mirrors. Each pane was a window, showing different parts of the casino. But not as I knew them. In one, the slots pulsed like beating hearts. In another, the elevators opened to reveal starless void. In another, me, staring back, lips moving though I hadn't spoken. I pressed my hand to the glass. My reflection leaned closer. And whispered something I couldn't hear. Alvarado stepped beside me. "She already owns your voice," he said. I shook my head. "Then why don't you remember last night?" I opened my mouth. Stopped. Because I didn't remember. From 3 o'clock to sunrise, my memory was a blank slate. Like someone had carved it out. And in that empty space, I swore I could feel her teeth. When I stumbled back upstairs, the casino floor was gone. Just endless hallway. Carpet stretching forever. Every light bulb humming in unison like a choir. My radio buzzed. Static, then her voice. "You're still playing, little one. But every game has an ending." I checked the rule sheet one last time. Rule 10, the game ends when you speak. But underneath, smeared in ash. Or when the building swallows you whole. She's been at this longer than I thought. I'm not the first. At 11:45 p.m., I ducked into the old employee locker room. Nobody uses it anymore. The hinges rusted, half the doors busted off, and the air smelling of dust and mildew. But tonight, the lockers weren't empty. Inside one, I found a folded polo shirt with the Flamingo logo. Stiff with dried sweat. Inside another, a pair of black work boots, laces tied together, soles worn flat. And inside the third, a spiral notebook. The cover was warped, pages water-stained. But the handwriting was sharp. Nervous. February 3, 1997. She says not to look at the sky after 5. I broke it once. Never again. The stars are not stars. They move. March 1, 1997. Alvarado isn't Alvarado. He's her echo. I followed him once and found nothing at the end of his footsteps. Just a shadow with teeth. March 19, 1997. She asked me to speak her name. I almost did. Almost. That's how she eats. The last entry, half scribbled, ink bleeding across the page. April 6, 1997. She wins when you believe the rules are yours. They're not. They're hers. Always hers. Tucked inside the notebook was a Polaroid. A man in a security uniform, standing in front of the Flamingo's staff entrance. Face blurred. Not motion blur, something had smeared his features out, like wet paint. But his badge was clear. Alvarado. At 2 a.m., I checked the west hallway mirror. Only my reflection this time. I lifted my hand. It lifted back. But when I mouthed, "Help me," it didn't move its lips. At 3:15, the windows filled with feathers again. Not drifting this time. Pressing in. Hard. The glass bowed like lungs ready to burst. I swear I heard bones snapping in the distance, like the whole strip was folding into her wings. My radio hissed. Alvarado's voice. "Found your predecessor's notes, didn't you?" I gripped the radio, didn't answer. He laughed. "They all find them. It doesn't help." At 5 o'clock, I checked the sheet again. Still 10 rules. But scribbled in the margin, faint like someone else's handwriting. Don't trust the end of the list. It changes. When the sun finally rose, it wasn't the strip outside. It was desert. Sand stretching forever, dotted with half-buried pillars. Ancient. Cracked. And on the horizon a black shape, feathered wings spread wider than mountains. Not moving. Just waiting. The desert outside the windows didn't vanish with sunrise. It stayed. And with it came him. At 12:10 a.m., I was making rounds near the old service elevators when I heard it. Knock. 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 3 times, steady. Not on the door from inside the shaft. When I pried the doors open, the space was pitch black. No cables, no counterweights. Just a void stretching down forever. Then he climbed out. Uniform like mine. Badge with no name. Head tilted, skin sagging like wax melted over a skull. But his voice was clear. "You read my notebook." I froze. He chuckled, a wet, rasping sound. "Don't worry. I'm not here to warn you. That's impossible." He staggered closer, joints bending wrong. "You think rules will save you," he whispered. "They only save her. Every step you take inside them is worship." I tried to back away. He raised one trembling hand. "You can stop playing. There's a way. Speak her name. She'll take your voice, not your body. You'll serve, but you won't suffer." My throat tightened. The temptation was heavy. Like someone pressing a hand on my chest, urging the words out. The radio burst alive. Alvarado's voice, sharp this time. "Don't listen. He's not a man anymore. He's a mouth." The faceless thing laughed, deeper now. "You think Alvarado's any different?" His jaw split wider than it should have, stretching into a grin that cut ear to ear. "She's already eaten him. He just doesn't know it." The lights overhead shattered. Feathers poured through the ceiling tiles, filling the corridor, brushing my arms and throat. The thing grabbed me by the collar. "Say it," he hissed. "Set yourself free." Behind him, I saw something, his shadow. It didn't match his movements. It bent and twisted, wings unfurling, eyes burning like stars swallowed in tar. Not him. Never him. I shoved him backward. He fell into the elevator shaft. But there was no sound of impact. Just wings beating once, hard, shaking the building. And then silence. When I checked the rule sheet later, a new line had been scrawled beneath Rule 10. Rule 11, if they come back, they're hers. Don't speak to them. I looked outside again before my shift ended. The desert horizon was closer. The black-winged shape no longer waiting. It was walking. Each step collapsing miles into inches. And it was coming for the Flamingo. I don't trust my own head anymore. She's in there. At 11:30 p.m., I unfolded the rule sheet. Same creases. Same handwriting. But Rule 2 was gone. Not crossed out. Not erased. Just never written. Like it had never existed. I tried to remember what it had said, but my brain stuttered. Blank. The more I pushed, the sharper the pain in my temples. Like she was chewing the thought as I made it. At 1 a.m., I was in the west hallway. Then I blinked. And it was 3:45. I was on the casino floor, flashlight in hand, heart hammering. No memory of walking there. No memory of 2.5 hours. On the carpet near the slots, I found a smear of ash in the shape of a word. Again. At 4 o'clock, Alvarado appeared in the stairwell. He looked tired. More human than before. "Don't keep the sheet," he said. "It's hers now. She writes the rules, not you." I shook my head. "It's the only thing keeping me alive." He sighed. "Then she's already won. Every rule you follow is a prayer." I checked the mirror in the lobby at 4:30. This time my reflection was smiling. But I wasn't. It lifted its hand when I didn't. Mouth moved when mine was shut. And the words it mouthed. I recognized them. Her name. I stumbled back, nearly dropped my flashlight. The reflection laughed silently, teeth too sharp, eyes black as the desert sky. By 5:15, I couldn't remember if Rule 10 had always said, "The game ends when you speak." Or if it had once said something else. Something worse. And the notebook from the locker room? When I pulled it from my bag, it was blank. Every page. White as bone. No ink, no dates, no warnings. Like it had never been written. When 6 o'clock hit, I went to the windows. Still no strip. Only desert. Only feathers. And the black-winged shape closer than ever. I put my hand on the glass. The glass was warm. Like skin. And in my own voice, whispered from the other side, I heard. "You already broke them all. Daylight doesn't mean anything anymore. Not here." At 6:01 a.m., the lights outside brightened. The desert faded. The strip was back. Tourists, taxis, neon. All normal. Except it wasn't. Because no one moved. Every cab frozen mid-turn. Every pedestrian caught mid-step. The Bellagio fountains arched, suspended like glass. Daylight like a photograph. Still. Dead. I walked the slots. Their lights spun. Reels turned. But every machine landed the same. 3 black feathers. Over and over. Each one dumped not coins but ash onto the carpet. The air stank like burnt paper. At 8 a.m., I found Alvarado in the break room. Drinking coffee. Reading the paper. Like it was a normal morning. I almost believed it. Until he lowered the cup and ash spilled from his mouth instead of steam. He didn't notice. Kept sipping. Kept smiling. Like he couldn't taste the fire in his throat. I tried the south stairwell. 10 steps down the walls went black. Not shadow. Not darkness. Feathers. Packed tight, pulsing. I reached out with the flashlight. The beam didn't pass through. It bent. Swallowed whole. Something inside breathed back. Slow. Patient. Back on patrol, I checked the sheet. New handwriting, different from the others. Rule 12, daylight does not release you. Don't stop until the strip moves again. I glanced outside. The world was still frozen. Sunlight burning like a lamp over a stage. Every face outside locked in mid-expression. And in the reflection of the glass. I wasn't there. Radio clicked on. Her voice this time. Not Alvarado. Not static. Day and night are mine. You never leave. You only forget. My throat burned. Like her words had lodged inside me. And when I tried to answer, no sound came out. I don't know how many nights it's been. I don't know if nights exist anymore. At 11:15 p.m., I checked the security office calendar. September. Every square filled in. Not with numbers. With words, shift. Every day. 30 squares. All the same word. When I touched the paper, the ink smeared onto my skin. Black ash instead of pen. At 12:30, I caught myself in a hallway mirror. Uniform looked right. Badge still pinned. But the name above the badge. It wasn't mine. It said, Alvarado. I tore it off. Checked again. Still said Alvarado. Even though I could feel the letters of my real name under my fingers. I couldn't remember what they spelled. At 2 o'clock, I walked the west hallway. At 2:15, I was back at the same spot. At 2:30, again. Each time, my flashlight battery dropped lower. Each time, my heart pounded harder. But my legs never got tired. Like I wasn't moving at all. Just replaying. At 3:45, I opened the break room door. Someone was sitting in my chair. Wearing my uniform. Face buried in their hands. I whispered, "Who are you?" They didn't answer. I stepped closer. They lifted their head. It was me. Eyes black, mouth filled with feathers. I slammed the door. The sound echoed like a gunshot down the hall. When I opened it again, the room was empty. The rule sheet changed again. At the bottom, smeared in ash. Rule 13, don't trust your name. It belongs to her now. I stared until the letters blurred. And in the back of my skull, I felt her laugh. At 5:50 a.m., I went to the windows. The strip had moved again. People walking. Cars flowing. Neon flickering. Daytime. But my reflection stayed stuck in the glass. Not moving when I did. It mouthed something slow. Not her name this time. A number. 17. Like it was counting the nights I'd been here. I'm starting to think I never had a life before this place. At 11:10 p.m., the security phone rang. Not the desk phone. The red one. The one I've never used. I answered. A woman's voice, "Honey. Why didn't you come home? Dinner's cold." I almost dropped the receiver. I don't have a wife. Not anymore. Not ever. Her voice cracked into static. Then, the children are waiting. The line went dead. At 12:40, I passed the East Slot Bank. 3 kids sat in the chairs. Coins clinking from machines that weren't plugged in. Their faces were wrong. Flat. Smooth. Like masks without features. But I knew them. Deep down, I knew them. Names rising in my head, Caleb, June, Marissa. I don't know those names. I don't have kids. Do I? At 2:15 a.m., I opened the stairwell door. It wasn't the stairwell. It was a 2-bedroom apartment. Beige carpet. Cheap blinds. Laundry piled on the couch. I could smell spaghetti sauce simmering. On the countermail with my name. Except not my name. Different last name. Different address. Still mine. Still me. When I blinked, the door shut on its own. When I opened it again, concrete stairs. At 3 o'clock, the rule sheet bled. Ink oozed down the page, pooling at the bottom. New words formed. Rule 14, do not claim what isn't yours. She offers false lives. I rubbed my eyes. When I looked again, the words were gone. Just the old list. But I still felt them etched inside my skull. At 4:20, I saw him again. Same black suit, same crooked tie. But his face was shifting like he couldn't decide which version to wear. Rough night, he asked, though his mouth didn't move. I asked, who am I supposed to be? He grinned, showing teeth too sharp. You're whoever she wants. That's the trick. At 6:05 a.m., I pushed through the west exit. Daylight hit. People rushed up and down the strip. Billboards flashing, music blaring, taxis honking. And across the street, I saw myself. Not security uniform me. Not broken me. A man in a suit, briefcase in hand, kissing a woman on the cheek before walking into Bally's. Happy. Normal. Alive. He didn't look back. And neither did she. I wanted to scream. But the sound that came out wasn't mine. It was her voice. Dark. Endless. Choose carefully. I can't remember which version of me wrote the first page of this. I don't know if I'm the same man who clocked in yesterday. At 11:30 p.m., I checked my reflection in the lobby glass. The badge read Alvarado again. The shirt was the wrong color gray instead of black. When I touched it, it flickered like static. For a second, I was in a postal worker's uniform, holding a satchel full of letters. Then the casino lights snapped, and I was back in security gear. Except my name tag was gone completely. At 12:10, I opened my locker. Inside, a mechanic's coverall, grease-stained, with my handwriting on the breast pocket. A pack of cigarettes I don't smoke. A photo of me smiling with coworkers I've never met, in a garage I've never worked in. I touched the photo. The people in it blinked. And their mouths started moving, silently chanting something in unison. I slammed the locker shut. At 1:45, I found a notebook on the break room table. The cover said, Shift Notes. The handwriting inside was mine. But the entries weren't. Day 328, still driving the city bus. Still keeping the lights on. Still following the rules. Don't let the shadows step aboard without a ticket. I don't drive a bus. I never drove a bus. But my hands knew the weight of a steering wheel when I read it. At 3 o'clock, I checked the rule sheet. The paper was almost transparent, like skin. Words faded in and out. Rule 15, do not answer when they call you by another name. I whispered it to myself, over and over, like prayer. Because I could feel it cemething in the halls, whispering different names, trying each one like a lockpick. Some of them fit too well. At 4:20, I passed the blackjack table. A dealer in a red vest waved me over. He looked familiar. Not because I'd seen him before. Because his face was mine. Older. Tired. Sit down, he said. Play a hand. See what you might have been. Cards snapped onto the felt. One was blank. The other showed a city street I recognized, though I'd never lived there. I almost sat. Almost reached. Then I remembered Rule 15. I walked away, ears burning. Behind me, my own voice called out a different name. Not mine. Not anymore. At 6 a.m., the lights of the strip looked fake. Like a painted set. I pressed my hand against the glass. My reflection lagged a second behind. When it caught up, it wasn't me. It was all of me. The bus driver. The mechanic. The husband. The father. The security guard. All standing shoulder to shoulder. All smiling like puppets. Behind them, the night stretched forever. And in that night her eyes. Watching. Waiting. The rules used to protect me. Now they're tearing me apart. At 11 p.m., the paper looked normal. 11 rules. The same list. By 11:10, a new line bled through the bottom. Rule 16, always acknowledge her when she speaks. My stomach dropped. Because Rule 2 still said. Never respond if you hear her voice. Both written in the same ink. Both humming like live wires. At 12:20, she tested me. Her voice slid out of the shadows. Low, soft, intimate. Do you remember our children? I bit my tongue bloody. Didn't answer. Didn't even breathe. The hallway shook. Lights flickered. My earpiece crackled alive. Violation. You were supposed to acknowledge her. But it wasn't dispatch. It was me. My own voice, repeating the new rule. At 1:40, the service elevator was open. Inside, taped to the wall, the rule sheet. Different again. Rule 2, always respond when called. Rule 16, remain silent when she speaks. Opposite. Mocking me. The car shuddered, like it wanted me inside. I didn't step in. But the doors still closed, grinding on nothing. The sound echoed up through the shaft like laughter. At 3:05, I found a coworker waiting in the break room. Black suit. Crooked tie. The same pit boss who never clocks in. He slid a folded rule sheet across the table. Pick one, he said. Inside, 2 lists. One told me to stay silent. One told me to answer. Both signed at the bottom in handwriting that looked like mine. I didn't write these, I whispered. He smiled, teeth too long. Didn't you? Haven't you lived them all already? At 4:40, I noticed ink on my forearm. Fresh. Smudged. Rule 17, if the rules conflict, choose wrong. Only wrong survives. I didn't write it. But my skin burned, like it was carved in. At 5:50 a.m., I heard her whisper again. Closer than ever. Say my name. Both lists in my pocket shook like living things. One said, don't. One said, do it. I clenched my jaw until it cracked. But something in me whispered back anyway. Not my voice. Not my will. The sound slid out of me like smoke. Nix. The walls pulsed. The lights died. And all the rules went blank. The rules are gone. And she's here. At 11 p.m., the casino went dark. Not a flicker. Not a surge. Dark like ink poured over the whole building. Emergency lights didn't kick on. Exit signs didn't glow. My flashlight beam hit the air and dissolved, like water dropped into oil. I could still hear the slots. Still hear cards snapping, dice rolling, drinks pouring. But the sounds weren't human anymore. Every voice pitched too low, dragging like tape played at half speed. At 12:15, the floor shuddered. Not from construction. Not from the monorail outside. Something walked through the building. Slow. Measured. Each step heavier than the last. The walls groaned like they might crack. At 1:30, she came into view. Not in a mirror. Not through glass. Not in smoke or ash. In the flesh. Nix. She didn't look like a person. Not at first. She was absence. A hole cut in the world, rimmed with stars. Every time I tried to focus, shapes flickered inside her. A woman's outline, a bird's wing, a serpent uncoiling. Every myth carved into one body. And she was watching me. "Little guard," she whispered, though her mouth never moved. The words pressed against my chest like stone. My knees buckled. I almost fell. "You've kept my house. You've obeyed. But obedience is not loyalty." I couldn't speak. Couldn't think. The old rules burned in my head. Silent. Silent. Stay silent. But she smiled. And every light outside the Flamingo guttered out. The strip itself died, swallowed whole. There was no outside anymore. At 3 o'clock, she leaned close. Close enough that I saw stars orbiting where her eyes should have been. "Choose," she said. "Stay my keeper forever. Or leave and never be real again." Behind her, I saw the false lives flickering. The bus driver. The mechanic. The father. All waiting, hands outstretched. None of them mine. But each one possible. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't look away. At 5:50 a.m., the building groaned. Chandeliers fell. Tables split. Walls peeled back, revealing nothing but night beyond. She stretched taller, wider, until she filled every corner. And in the center of her chest, a hole yawned open. Not a mouth. A horizon. She wanted me to step through. I don't remember if I moved. I don't remember if I stayed. All I know is the sun never came up. I stepped forward. Or maybe I fell. Either way, the Flamingo is gone. When I crossed the hole in her chest, I expected fire. Or ice. Or nothing. Instead, stars. Billions of them, stitched in patterns I didn't recognize. Every constellation moving. Rearranging. Breathing. I floated, though I could feel the casino carpet under my boots. Every step still echoed, even with no floor. At 12:15, something heavy wrapped around my shoulders. I thought it was fear. But then I looked down. A cloak of feathers. Black as coal. Warm as skin. It was hers. And now it was mine. The weight pressed me lower, until I had to crawl. Above me, her voice rolled like thunder. "You wanted work. Now you will work for me." At 1:40, they appeared. Not shadows this time. Not reflections. The mechanic. The bus driver. The husband. The father. All of them stood in a ring, eyes lit with stars. Each spoke in my own voice. "You left us behind. You abandoned what you could have been." They reached for me, fingers like chains. At 2:05, something scratched itself into my arm again. I didn't write it. But it burned into the skin like iron. Rule 18, when the night offers you 1,000 faces, wear none. I screamed it back at them. None. The false lives shattered like glass. Fragments spiraled away into the stars. At 3:30, she showed me her seat. A throne built of bones. Not human bones. Not animal bones. Bones of time. Years stacked like vertebrae, centuries like ribs, eons like skulls. She lowered herself into it, wings unfurling wider than the strip itself. "Sit," she commanded. "Be still. Guard the dark with me." At 5:55 a.m., the sky folded inward. Two paths opened. One back to the Flamingo, ruined and hollow. One deeper into her night, where nothing human could follow. Her voice wrapped around me like a shroud. Choose. But no one's chosen, all other selves are ash. I still don't know which path I took. Or maybe I took both. Because when I blink now, I'm back in the security office. And when I blink again, I'm floating in the night, wearing her feathers. And the rules won't stay still anymore. I'm living 2 lives. Or maybe 2 deaths. At 11:05 p.m., I was in the security office, checking the monitors. Static. Hallways. Empty chairs. At 11:06 p.m., I was kneeling before her throne, feathers dragging across a floor made of starlight. Every blink, I change places. Every breath, a coin toss. Neither version feels real. Both versions hurt. At midnight, the rule sheet appeared on the desk. Same torn paper. Same handwriting. But when I blinked, it was carved into the air itself, letters burning white across the night sky. One list in ink. One in fire. Both mine. And both different. The paper said, Rule 1, never forget who you are. The fire said, Rule 1, forget yourself entirely. I couldn't tell which one saved me. Or which one damned me. At 1:45 a.m., the break room door opened. The mechanic walked in, wiping his hands on a rag. Then the bus driver followed, cap in hand. Then the husband, carrying flowers. Then the father, holding a child's toy. They sat at the table like co-workers. They all stared at me. Clock in, they said together. Clock in, or be replaced. When I blinked, they were gone. But the chairs still rocked like they'd just left. At 2:30, I felt the cloak tightening. Even in the Flamingo, I could feel it. Black feathers sliding under my uniform, weaving into my skin. I tried to tear them out. They grew back instantly, slick with starlight. I looked down at my hands. And saw claws where my fingers should be. A guest walked past the hall and didn't even notice. Like I wasn't there. Like I'd already left the human world. At 3:55, blood bubbled up under my fingernails, spelling words across my palm. Rule 19, 2 lives can't last. Choose, or she'll choose for you. My heart kicked like it was trying to escape my chest. Because I knew she was listening. Waiting. And laughing. At 6 a.m., I ran to the windows. The strip looked normal. Cars. Crowds. Sunlight hitting the glass. But when I blinked, I saw only the night sky, endless and hollow. And both versions of me pressed their hands against the glass. One in a security uniform. One in feathers. Both whispering the same thing. You can't go back. I can't live split in 2. So I'm breaking the rules. Or making new ones. At 11:30 p.m., the rule sheet appeared on the break room table again. But this time, it was empty. No ink. No lines. Just white. It pulsed like a heartbeat. Waiting. I pulled out my pen. My hand shook, but I forced the words. Rule 1, I write the rules now. The paper drank the ink like blood. And for a second just a secondi felt the cloak loosen around my shoulders. At 12:45, the pit boss walked in. The one in the black suit. The one who never clocks in. He glanced at the paper and smirked. You think you're the first? He tugged his collar down. His chest was covered in burned-in script. Rules carved into his flesh like brands. None of us win, he whispered. She always rewrites. Then he vanished, leaving only the smell of smoke. At 2:10, I added another line. Rule 2, Nix cannot command me. Instantly, the lights flickered. The walls groaned. And her voice crashed down like an avalanche. You dare. I clutched the pen tighter. Scrawled faster. Rule 3, I exist only once. Not twice. Not many. Pain stabbed behind my eyes. The false lives screamed. The bus driver. The mechanic. The father. All tearing at my skin, begging me to let them back in. I kept writing until my knuckles split. At 3:45, blood oozed across the page. Not mine. Hers. It bled into new lines beneath my writing. Rule 4, he belongs to me. Rule 5, he writes nothing without my hand guiding it. The ink glowed. My pen snapped in half. And the cloak cinched tighter than ever. At 5:15, I carved into the desk itself with a piece of broken glass. Not on paper. Not on skin. Wood. Something older. Rule 6, the rules end with me. The whole room shook. For the first time, her voice cracked. Not laughter. Not rage. But something like surprise. At 6 a.m., I looked out the glass. For the first time in weeks, the sun rose. Real. Blinding. The cloak burned against my shoulders. Smoke poured from the feathers. And I heard her whisper. You can't hold it forever. Maybe she's right. But for now. For now, the rules are mine. I thought winning meant freedom. Turns out, it just means responsibility. At 11:05 p.m., the blank paper was back. But this time, the words were mine. Not burned in. Not bled through. Written in my own hand. 1. I write the rules now. 2. Nix cannot command me. 3. I exist only once. The paper hummed with power. It felt alive. Like it was waiting for the next command. At 12:30, I walked the West Hall. Usually it smells like stale cigarettes, disinfectant, and mildew. Tonight, it smelled like pine trees. And dirt after rain. The carpet had changed, too. Patterns of stars instead of flamingos. They shifted under my boots like they were watching me. I hadn't written that rule. At 1:50, a woman stopped me near the lobby. Not Nix. Not a shadow. A guest. She pressed a hand to my arm and whispered. Thank you. I pulled back. Thank me for what? She smiled with tears in her eyes. For letting me wake up. Then she turned, walked toward the doors, and dissolved into light. At 2:15, I checked the page again. My rules were there. But new lines had appeared beneath them. Rule 4, every guest who sleeps here will dream of starlight. Rule 5, all exits lead to me. I didn't write those. The ink looked like mine. But I didn't write them. At 3:40, the feathers returned. Not choking me this time. Not burning. They rested gently across my shoulders, like a uniform. Like acceptance. And when I moved through the casino, people moved with me. Staff. Guests. Strangers. Their eyes glowed faintly, star-bright. Following me. Like I was their manager. Or their priest. At 4:55, my palm burned again. Scrawled across the skin, in jagged lines. Rule 20, he who writes the rules becomes the house. I dropped the page. It burst into flame, ash scattering across the break room floor. But the words didn't disappear. They stayed branded into my head. At 6 a.m., the sun rose. The strip looked the same. Tourists stumbling, taxis honking, neon flashing. But every person I passed glanced at me twice. And when they blinked, I saw feathers shadow their eyes. The flamingo isn't just Nix's anymore. It's mine too. And the rules aren't finished. I thought I'd won. But Nix doesn't lose. She waits. At 11:20 p.m., my radio crackled. Usually it's just white noise, maybe a dispatcher checking in. Tonight it hissed like someone breathing through feathers. Then. A voice. You wrote your little lines, it said. But you forgot who invented night. The radio went dead. The silence after was louder than any alarm. At 12:10 a.m., the floor stopped moving. I don't mean the crowd slowed. I mean they froze. Cards mid-shuffle. Dice hanging in midair. A drink spilling sideways from a glass, frozen in liquid crystal. Only me, moving through it all. And shadows. Shadows that didn't belong. Stretched wrong. Curling around the guests like vines. At 1 a.m., she appeared. Not in full form. Just her outline in the slot machine's reflection. Wings spread wider than the room. Eyes like two dying stars. You think rules save you, she whispered. Write all you want. Every word is still mine. I wanted to answer, but my throat locked. My own body following one of her rules I hadn't even seen. At 2:15, I fought back. Pulled out the sheet. Wrote in shaking hand. Rule 6, she cannot freeze me. The ink bled gold. The world jolted forward. Guests moved again. But when they looked at me, their eyes were hollow. Like I'd ripped something out of them just to save myself. At 3:40, the ceiling cracked. Not the plaster. The sky itself. Black feathers poured down like rain. Each one that touched carpet burned a hole. Each one that touched skin left a scar shaped like an eye. People screamed. Some never stopped. I clutched the rule sheet tight. The feathers didn't burn me. Not anymore. But the screaming didn't stop. And I couldn't write fast enough to save them. At 4:55, she whispered again. You write your rules. But every line costs a life. Do you even notice which ones? The sheet in my hand grew heavier. I swear I saw names burned into the paper beneath the rules. Names of the people who had vanished in the casino tonight. At 6 a.m., the sun rose. The guests blinked, confused. Time smoothed itself out. Like nothing had happened. But I remembered. And when I checked the rule sheet again, it had a clock at the bottom. Counting down. 2400 hours 23:59 23:58. Underscore 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 underscore. The clock started at 2400 hours. Now it's down to 2300 hours. Every second feels like a nail in my chest. At 11:15 p.m., the second hand hit 2300 hours. And the lights dimmed. Not just inside the casino. Outside too. The strip looked hollow. Neon bent like it was underwater. Street lamps flickered. It was still Vegas. But it wasn't this Vegas. It was hers. At 11:50 p.m., I watched a man cash out his chips. He smiled, slapped his buddy on the back. Then the countdown flicked to 22:59. The man vanished. Not smoke. Not ash. Just gone. Like the world edited him out. His buddy looked around confused, like the seat had always been empty. Like he'd never existed. But I remembered. The rule sheet lets me remember. At 12:20 a.m., I tried to write again. Rule 7, the clock cannot take those I see. The page shook. The words bled like ink in water. Then Nix laughed. Not from the ceiling, not from shadows. From inside my head. You keep patching holes in the dam. But the river is mine. The rule didn't stick. The countdown kept ticking. At 1:15 a.m., the countdown slid to 2200 hours. That's when the dealer froze. Mid-deal, mid-breath. Her eyes turned black. Her lips parted. And Nix spoke through her mouth. Every hour, another piece of your little empire crumbles. You wanted power. This is what it costs. Then the dealer blinked. She looked normal again. But her hands shook so bad she dropped the cards. At 2 a.m., I checked the security mirror. I wasn't there. Just an empty uniform walking the hall. Badge glowing faintly. The clock read 2100 hours. And in the reflection, Nix's wings stretched behind me. Not mine. Not hers. Both. At 3:15 a.m., I snapped. I yelled at the ceiling, at the cameras, at the sheet in my hands. What do you want from me? The clock flicked to 2000 hours. And her voice answered. I want you to understand. Not just obey. Not just survive. Understand what night is. At 4 a.m., the countdown hit 1900 hours. The guests were gone. Every single one. The floor was empty, machines blinking to no one. Except me. And the feathers. Always the feathers. Falling like endless midnight snow. I knew what the test was. I had 19 hours to learn. Or vanish like the rest. The Flamingo wasn't empty. It was waiting. 18 hours left. At 5 a.m., the clock hit 1800 hours. And the carpet rippled. Like water. Like something underneath was waking up. I stepped back, but the ripple followed me. Spreading, swelling. Until the whole casino floor was an ocean of patterned fabric. The voice came from nowhere and everywhere. Nix. Night is not absence. Night is the tide. Cross it, and learn. The carpet heaved higher. Then something broke the surface. A flamingo. Not pink. Black. Its feathers shimmered like oil. Its eyes burned silver. It stepped forward, and the ground sagged under its weight. Like it was pulling the whole building into the sea. I froze. The bird tilted its head, opened its beak. The sound it made wasn't a squawk. It was my own voice. Repeating my last words. Cross it, and learn. Then again, louder. Cross it, and learn. Until the whole casino echoed with my own voice, thrown back at me in different tones. I clutched the sheet, tried to write. Rule 8, they cannot steal my voice. But before I finished the sentence, the ink vanished. The rule didn't hold. And that's when I realized. I'd already broken it. By speaking. At 5:40 a.m., I shut my mouth. Bit my tongue. Didn't whisper. Didn't breathe too loud. The bird tilted its head again. Silver eyes narrowing. Then it stepped aside. The carpet stopped rippling under me. Solid ground again. I'd passed the first trial. The rule was simple. Don't speak in Nix's waters. At 6 a.m., the clock dropped to 1700 hours. And I heard them. The voices of the guests. The ones who vanished when the countdown began. All of them screaming through the bird's throat. All of them speaking my name. They hadn't survived the trial. But I had. For now. The first trial took my voice. Not forever. But I learned not to use it carelessly. Now the second trial waits. And the clock keeps bleeding hours. 17 hours left. At 6:05 a.m., the casino lights blinked out. Not a power cut. Not a breaker. Just gone. The only light left came from the slot machine screens. One by one, their reels spun. Coins clattered. Jackpot bells rang. But nobody was touching them. The jackpots spelled words. Look up. I raised my eyes. The ceiling wasn't a ceiling anymore. It was sky. Black. Endless. Studded with stars that looked too close, too sharp. And between them, something moved. Not wings this time. Not feathers. Chains. Miles of them. Dragging across the stars, rattling so loud my teeth hurt. One chain fell. Cracked the floor beside me. I jumped back, heart hammering. The moment I moved, another chain lashed down. Closer. They weren't random. They were hunting movement. So I stood still. Didn't flinch. Didn't breathe too loud. The chain hovered, inches from my face. Rust flakes burned my skin. Then it withdrew. Rattling back into the sky. The trial was clear. Rule 9, do not move when the chains fall. At 7 a.m., the clock hit 1600 hours. And my leg cramped. Just a twitch. A stupid, human twitch. The nearest chain plunged. I couldn't dodge. That would be movement. So I took it. It struck my shoulder, white hot. Pain like molten iron eating through my flesh. But it didn't drag me up. Didn't kill me. Instead, it left a mark. A circle burned into my skin, ringed with stars. Her voice filled the room. Night binds. It doesn't kill outright. Not unless you beg for release. The chains retreated. The stars blinked out. The casino ceiling returned. The pain stayed. The mark stayed. Another rule burned into my mind. And the clock kept ticking. 2 trials down. The clock kept ticking. 1600 hours 1559 1558. But for the first time since this nightmare started, Nix gave me silence. I sat in the break room, shirt peeled down, staring at the scar. A circle. Ringed with tiny notches. Not random. Stars. When I flexed my shoulder, they shifted. Aligned. Like a constellation chart burned into my flesh. And when the lights flickered, the mark glowed faintly. Like it was alive. At 8:10 a.m., I held my phone flashlight against it. The glow pulsed brighter. The air shifted. Suddenly I could hear the slot machines in the casino. From inside the break room. Not the normal clang of jackpots. But whispers. Different voices, layered. The clock isn't ours. The clock is offerings. The clock counts down until the house feeds. I dropped the flashlight. The whispers cut off. The scar faded back to dull red. At 9 a.m., I checked the bathroom mirror. The scar didn't look burned anymore. It looked inked. Like someone tattooed me without my permission. Each star sharp, precise. And as I watched, one of the stars winked out. The clock hit 1500 hours. That's when I understood. The countdown isn't just time. It's lives. Every hour, someone's erased. Someone I can't save. Unless the scar is a key. It let me hear them once. Maybe it can do more. At 9:45 a.m., I pressed my palm flat against the mark. Closed my eyes. Focused. For a second, silence. Then a whisper answered. Not Nick's. Not the guests. Me. From somewhere else. Some other version of me. And the voice said, stop writing. It's the rules themselves that keep her fed. The connection snapped. The mark burned again, raw and angry. Now I don't know what's worse. Writing rules. Or refusing to. Every choice feeds her. Every hour steals someone. And I'm running out of both. The clock hit 1400 hours. And the third trial began. At 10 a.m., the casino carpet cracked open. No ripple this time. No water. Sand. Blowing hot, dry, endless. The walls stretched away until there was no building. Just dunes. The Flamingo was gone. I was standing in a desert under a starless sky. Shapes appeared in the distance. A line of travelers. Faces hidden, cloaks flapping in wind. They walked in silence, leaving no footprints. And as they passed me, one brushed my arm. Cold. Not alive. Not dead. When the last figure turned, I saw its face. It was mine. I stumbled back, clutching the sheet. The figures circled me. Each one holding a cup. Empty. Their mouths opened. My voice again. Begging. Drink. 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 But there was no water. Just sand. And I knew the rule of this place. Don't drink what's offered. At 10:45 a.m., the first cup filled. Clear liquid. Ice cold. Perfect. My throat was raw. Lips cracked. The desert was burning me alive. I wanted it. God, I wanted it. I reached for the page. I could write a rule. Rule 10, water cannot harm me. But the memory of my own voice, the warning from the mark echoed back. Stop writing. It feeds her. So I froze. Hands shaking. Mouth dry. Didn't drink. Didn't write. At 11 a.m., the clock hit 1300 hours. The caravan faded. The cups crumbled to sand. And I collapsed on the ground. Breathless. Suffocating. But alive. I'd passed the third trial. Without writing. Without drinking. Just by starving myself of both. The casino ceiling blinked back. The machines. The carpets. The feathers falling like ash. But the thirst stayed. Like a reminder. And the scar on my shoulder pulsed again. One more star winked out. The countdown rolled on. The third trial left me raw. Thirst burning in my throat. Voice stolen. Shoulder branded. I thought I was alone. But I wasn't. 12 hours left. At noon, the clock hit 12 o'clock. Halfway. The casino floor looked normal again. Crowds back. Laughter, shouts, jackpots. But it was wrong. Every guest was repeating the same 5 minutes on loop. Spinning reels. Cheering. Ordering drinks. Again. Again. And none of them looked at me. Except one. A man at a blackjack table. Gray jacket, mirrored sunglasses. He blinked at me. Once. Out of sync with the loop. Then he stood, slow and careful, and walked toward me. Every step deliberate, like he was testing invisible wires. When he spoke, his voice rasped. "You've been writing, haven't you?" Up close, I saw it. He had a scar too. Not on his shoulder. On his neck. A thin black ring, like a noose burned into skin. "I was here before you," he said. "Nyx doesn't let many of us last this long." I asked his name. He didn't answer. Just smirked. "She gives us rules. Lets us think we're clever. But the more you write, the tighter the leash." He tapped my shoulder, right where the scar was. I flinched. It pulsed under his touch, angry. "You want to survive," he whispered. "Don't play her game. Don't add rules. Erase them." I froze. "Erase them?" He leaned closer. "You've got a sheet, don't you? Tear one out. Burn it. You'll see." Before I could respond, the crowd around us twitched. Like a film reel jumping frames. The looping guests froze mid-motion. And every single one of them turned their heads. Toward him. Not me. Him. Their mouths opened. Voices in perfect unison. "You've broken the rhythm." The man grabbed my wrist. Hard. "Run." At 12:30, the clock ticked to 11:59. And the guests dropped their act. No longer cheering, laughing, gambling. They ran. Straight at us. Not people anymore. Hollow vessels with Nyx behind their eyes. And she wasn't going to let either of us go without a fight. The crowd came at us like a wave. Not gamblers anymore. Not even people. Just shells. And Nyx filled every one of them. 11 hours left. At 1 p.m., the clock hit 11 o'clock. And the attack began. The man in the gray jacket dragged me down the service hallway. Feet pounding against linoleum. The roar of the crowd behind us, hundreds of voices, one throat. "You've got to burn one," he shouted. "Now." I pulled out the rule sheet. The pages throbbed in my hand like they were alive. I hesitated. That's when Nyx struck. The hallway lights shattered. Not flickered, shattered. Glass rained down in silence. The man dropped to his knees. Clutched his throat. The scar there lit up like a white-hot brand. His sunglasses fell. And I saw his eyes. Completely black. No whites. No pupils. Nyx was inside him. "She doesn't like secrets," he rasped. "She doesn't like." The words choked off. His mouth filled with feathers. Black, oily feathers pushing past his teeth. He convulsed, gagging, eyes rolling. And then he collapsed. Empty. The scar on his neck had spread. Circling his whole body, tightening like a rope. He wasn't a survivor anymore. He was a warning. The crowd outside the hallway froze. Every one of them stopped mid-step. Then their heads turned toward me. And Nyx spoke through them all. "You right." He spoke. "One of you broke the rule. He paid." Feathers spilled from their mouths, covering the floor. Then silence. They just stood there. Waiting. I looked at the man's body. The noose mark still glowing faintly. And my own scar. The star circle on my shoulder. Burned in response. The two marks knew each other. Connected. Like pieces of a constellation I hadn't finished. Now I had two choices. Burn a rule, like he told me. Test his theory. Risk feeding her anyway. Or keep the sheet whole. Keep writing. Keep obeying. Either way, Nix was smiling. And the clock ticked down. The body smoked. Not from fire. From her. The scar around his neck glowed like embers. And then faded to nothing. No blood. No heat. Just absence. 10 hours left. The wall clock ticked to 2 p.m. 10 hours until midnight. And she'd just shown me what happens when someone opens their mouth too wide. The rules were still clutched in my hand. Sweat smeared the ink. The paper throbbed against my pulse. Do I burn one? Do I risk testing it? If I did, I might lose one of the only things keeping me alive. If I didn't, maybe she'd do the same to me. They hadn't moved. Hundreds of them. Gamblers, dealers, maids, tourists. All standing shoulder to shoulder in the service hallway. Every face slack. Every mouth stained with black feather dust. All watching me. Nix had frozen them in place like dolls in a storefront. My lighter was in my pocket. I pulled it out. Flicked it open. Held the flame under the bottom corner of the page. The crowd inhaled as one. A single, collective gasp that rattled the ceiling tiles. The corner caught. Orange flame licked the edge. My scar blazed white-hot. The pain dropped me to my knees. I thought she was going to split me in half. But the paper didn't turn to ash. It melted. Melted like wax. Like it had never been paper at all. And from that melted edge, I heard her voice again. You burned. Now I feed. The crowd broke. Screamed. Not human screams. Wind tearing through broken glass. And then they ran. Not at me. Past me. Flooding the hallway, trampling the man's body, pouring deeper into the guts of the Flamingo. Doors slammed. Walls shook. Something woke up beneath the casino floor. Something she'd kept locked. Until I burned the edge. I looked at my shoulder. The star circle had changed. Not just burning. Moving. The lines shifted into a new shape. A map. No, not a map. A clock. The constellation scar had aligned with the hour. 10 hours left. And Nix whispered again, softer this time. Write, little light. Write faster. Or I'll show you the next hunger. The crowd was gone. Not dispersed. Not scattered. Gone. One moment, hundreds of bodies pressed shoulder to shoulder. The next. Only dust and the echo of their screaming. Like they'd been sucked down into the cracks of the hotel itself. I pressed my palm against the burning constellation. It pulsed in rhythm with the hallway fluorescence. One star in the circle brightened. The others dimmed. I knew what it meant. Go there. Problem was, the star pointed down. At 2:30 p.m., I found the locked service stairwell behind the storage closet. The padlock was old. Too old. Rusty iron, not hotel issue. When I touched it, the scar flared again. The lock split apart like it had been waiting for me. I descended. With every step, the noise grew louder. Not machines. Not plumbing. Breathing. The building itself was breathing. In. Out. And in the inhale, I heard 1,000 voices whisper. In the exhale, silence. At the bottom was a tunnel I didn't know existed. Concrete walls lined with pipes. But the pipes weren't for water or power. They pulsed. Like veins. Warm air brushed my face. It smelled like iron. And roses. The scar dragged me forward. At the tunnel's end. A chamber carved straight out of bedrock. In the middle, a pit. Shallow at first, then dropping into blackness that my flashlight couldn't touch. On the walls. Paintings. Old. Older than the Flamingo. Figures kneeling in shadow, arms raised to a woman with wings spread wide. A crown of stars above her head. Nix. The pit exhaled. The air hit me like a furnace blast. Dry, suffocating, filled with ash. And I realized what the crowd screaming had been. Not fear. Fuel. They'd been pulled here. Fed down into the pit. Every hour. The clock wasn't just counting time. It was measuring the feast. Nix's voice curled through the chamber like smoke. Now you see where they go. Now you see how I'm kept. The constellation scar flared again, reshaping itself into something new. Not a circle. Not a clock. A spiral. And at the center of the spiral was me. The pit wasn't empty. It moved. Not with bodies. Not with shadows. With the building. The walls of the chamber swelled inward, then pulled back. Like lungs. I pressed my palm against the concrete. Warm. Damp. Alive. The Flamingo was breathing. The pipes in the tunnel hadn't been plumbing. They were veins. Carrying whatever she fed on down into this pit. Every hour, when the clock shifted, I could feel it. A pulse that ran through the walls. Straight into the foundation. Straight into her. I stumbled back, gagging. I'd worked night security in this hotel for weeks. I'd leaned against those walls, rested my head against them, dozed on them. All that time, I'd been leaning against her body. The scar twisted again. The circle of stars stretched, curved, bent inward. Until they made a spiral. Each turn of the spiral matched the layout of the hotel. Casino floor. Guest rooms. Service tunnels. Me at the center. And as I watched, one more star blinked out. 9 hours left. Something cracked above me. Not stone. Not drywall. Bone. A sliver of ceiling shifted, and a whisper of feathers rained down. When I looked up, I saw black veins running through the plaster, branching across the ceiling like roots. They pulsed faintly in rhythm with the breathing. It wasn't just the basement. The whole hotel was alive. Her voice filled the chamber, echoing off the walls, wrapping around me. Do you understand now? This place is not my prison. It is my skin. My bones. My mouth. I clutched the half-burned rule list. Tried to steady my breathing. If the Flamingo was her body, then every guest was walking through her veins. Every win, every loss, every coin dropped into a slot machine was blood flow. And me? Security. I wasn't protecting the hotel. I was keeping her fed. The scar pulsed again, hard enough to drop me to one knee. My vision blurred. The spiral brightened. It pointed down. Into the pit. Her whisper tightened around my ear like a noose. Jump, little light. 9 hours left. See what waits in my heart. The pit breathed with her. Every exhale rattled the rebar. Every inhale pulled the air from my chest like a vacuum. I stood at the edge, my boots grinding against loose concrete. 9 hours left. The scar on my shoulder burned until my hands shook. It wasn't a suggestion anymore. It was a command. There was no ladder. No stairs. Just a drop. I looped my belt through a rusted pipe and lowered myself as far as I could. The pipe throbbed beneath my grip, warm, like muscle. And then I let go. The fall wasn't far. 15, maybe 20 feet. I landed hard on my ankle, pain shooting up my leg, but I didn't break anything. The pit floor was softer than I expected. Not dirt. Not stone. Flesh. It gave beneath my weight like thick carpet padding. My flashlight cut a weak cone across the chamber. But the beam didn't bounce. It sank. Like the walls swallowed the light whole. I moved slowly, careful with each step. The ground pulsed under me, timed with the building's breath. And then I heard them. Whispers. Dozens of them. The missing guests, the frozen crowd, maybe even past workers. All murmuring just beneath the surface. I dropped to my knees and pressed my ear to the flesh floor. They were alive. Buried in her. At the far end of the chamber, something moved. A glow. Red, wet, steady. It wasn't fire. It wasn't neon. It was a heartbeat. An enormous black heart, the size of a car, thudded against the wall. Each beat made the pipes in the tunnel twitch. Each beat pulled another star dim on my scar. I crawled toward it. Not because I wanted to. Because the mark dragged me. Her whisper coiled tight around my skull. You keep my rules. You feed my veins. But my heart. My heart must be kept beating. The heart shuddered. Slowed. Paused. And I knew, with sudden sharp certainty, what the rules were really for. They weren't about protecting me. They weren't even about protecting the guests. They were pacemakers. Every guideline. Every restriction. Every ritual. A pulse for her. A beat for her. A way to keep the dark alive. The heart thumped once more and then faltered. The scar on my shoulder flared so bright I nearly passed out. Her voice slid inside me like a knife. Right. Or the heart stops. And everything inside me screams. The heart faltered. One beat, then silence. The kind of silence that eats itself. My scar flared until my vision went white. I dropped to my knees, pen clattering out of my pocket, rule list fluttering onto the flesh floor. She wanted me to write. Now. I picked up the paper, hands trembling. The melted edge was stiff, waxy, like dried blood. If I wrote a new rule, I'd be feeding her. Giving her another pacemaker. Another string to tug me around with. If I refused, the heart would stop. And the screams below would rip through every wall of this hotel. I thought about the missing crowd. The guests who vanished mid-spin at the slots. The workers who clocked in and never clocked out. They were in there, in her veins. Keeping her warm. Keeping her full. If the heart died. What happened to them? I didn't write. Not yet. The heart gave a final, rattling beat and froze. The whole chamber shuddered. The walls heaved like a drowning animal. And then I heard it. The voices under the floor. Not whispers. Screams. Hundreds of them. Begging. Crying. Pounding at the flesh with phantom fists. The scar lit like magnesium. I couldn't breathe. The pit shook. The ceiling split. Feather dust rained down in thick clouds. The hotel above us groaned. Pipes burst, spraying hot air like steam whistles. It wasn't just this chamber anymore. The whole Flamingo was going into arrest. And she was letting me feel every second of it. I shoved the pen against the page, teeth clenched so hard I thought they'd crack. The ink bled faster than it should have, soaking deep, as if the paper drank it. I wrote. Rule 7, if the lights flicker 3 times in a row, face the nearest wall. Do not turn until the air is still. The second I finished, the heart thudded. Once. Twice. Steady again. The scream sank back down. The building's breathing slowed. Stabilized. The scar cooled. I collapsed against the pulsing wall, chest heaving. I had written. I had obeyed. And she had rewarded me. Nix's voice slithered through the chamber, smug and soft. See? So simple. So sweet. You keep me alive. And I keep you. The heart steadied. Her breathing filled the walls again, slow and deep, like a tide rolling back. I staggered up the tunnel, clutching the new rule in one hand and my flashlight in the other. Every step, the scar pulsed faintly, like it was reminding me of the ink I'd spilled. At 4:15 p.m., in the service corridor above the pit, the fluorescence buzzed. Once. Twice. 3 times. My whole body locked. The ink on Rule 7 was still wet in my pocket. This was its test. I pressed my face to the wall, concrete cool against my cheek. Didn't turn. Didn't breathe. The air behind me shifted. Hot. Sharp. Like standing too close to a campfire. Something scraped the tile. Not shoes. Claws. The heat pressed closer, so near my back felt blistered. And then a whisper crawled into my ear. You see me now, little light. The air trembled with it. My knees nearly gave. But I didn't turn. Not until the hallway stilled, the silence settling like a lid on a coffin. When I finally dared look, the corridor was empty. No footprints. No scorch marks. Just 3 feathers, black as ash, lying where I'd stood. They smoldered, curling into smoke that faded before I could touch them. The rule had saved me. That wasn't the test. That was the proof. But I also knew what it meant. The rules weren't just pacemakers for her heart. They were locks. And every time I wrote one, I wasn't just keeping her alive. I was building a door. One she could open from the inside. Back in the break room mirror, the scar had changed again. The spiral twisted tighter, pulling inward, dragging me with it. 8 hours left. The reflection wavered, and for a heartbeat, I didn't see my own face at all. I saw hers. Eyes like a void. Wings spread wide. A crown of stars above her head. And her smile was made of hunger. By 5 p.m., the hotel was bleeding people. Not all at once, not like the frozen crowd. But one by one. A front desk clerk. A cocktail waitress. A bellhop rolling an empty cart. They'd blink, hesitate, then vanish mid-step. Like the air folded them inside out. No scream. No warning. Just gone. I sprinted to security ops, monitors buzzing in a wall of static. Cameras showed flashes of movement. People walking, laughing, drinking. And then flicker flicker flicker. An empty frame. On the console, the intercom light pulsed red. No one had pressed it. When I picked it up, all I heard was her voice. They are mine. Always mine. You just notice it now. I slammed the receiver down hard enough to crack the plastic. The mark on my shoulder burned hot. I pulled my sleeve back and nearly gagged. The spiral had shrunk tighter, its lines jagged now, like cracked glass. 8 stars remained. Every time someone disappeared, one dimmed. This wasn't a countdown for me. It was a countdown for all of them. When the last star blinked out, she'd take everyone. At 5:30 p.m., I passed Maria, the janitor, in the hallway. She nodded at me, pushing her mop bucket. Normal. Ordinary. Then the fluorescence buzzed once. Twice. 3 times. My blood froze. Rule 7. I shoved her against the wall, whispering. Don't turn. Don't move. The air behind us shimmered with heat. A shadow slid across the tiles, long and wide, wings dragging the floor. Maria whimpered, but she didn't look. Not until the silence returned. When we turned back, her mop bucket was gone. So was her reflection in the glass doors at the end of the hall. She stared down at her hands, shaking. They're not mine anymore. I guided her back toward the service wing, but the truth hit me like a gut punch. The rules didn't just bind me. They were spreading. Threading into others. Tying everyone in the building into her spiral. And I was riding the rope. Maria didn't speak on the walk back. Didn't cry. Didn't even breathe loud. She just stared at her hands like she didn't recognize them. When we passed a mirror in the staff corridor, she froze. I saw my own reflection, fine bloodshot eyes, sweat plastering my shirt to my back. But hers? It wasn't Maria. It was a black outline. Hollow eyes. Mouth stitched shut. She turned away, shaking. I don't think I'm me anymore. At 6 p.m., we sat in the break room. She wouldn't touch the water bottle I offered. Wouldn't eat. The scar on my shoulder pulsed. Her forearm twitched in sync. I grabbed her wrist before I even thought about it. And there it was. A faint circle of bruised stars forming under her skin. She yanked back, terrified. What the hell is this? The mark was spreading. The rules weren't mine alone anymore. The lights flickered overhead. Not 3 times. Just once. Maria stiffened, eyes rolling back white. Her mouth moved though she didn't sound like herself. Rule 8, she whispered. If you hear laughter in an empty hallway, do not answer back. Ever. Her voice broke into a sob. I don't want this. Please, I don't want this. 10 minutes later, we heard it. A laugh. Thin, sharp, echoing through the service tunnel like broken glass. No one there. Just the sound. Maria clapped her hands over her ears and screamed. Don't answer. The scar on my arm lit. So did hers. The laugh grew louder, angrier, circling us like a shark. And then. Gone. Maria collapsed against the wall, sobbing into her hands. Her reflection in the nearest window rippled again. This time, it mouthed something her real lips didn't. Mine. I pulled her away, dragging us back toward the elevators. But I knew the truth. The spiral wasn't content with me anymore. It was branching. Multiplying. Pulling others in until every person in the Flamingo was just another vein feeding the heart. 8 hours left. 8 stars dimming. And now, Maria was part of the countdown. Maria didn't sleep. We sat in the empty break room, her legs pulled up tight against her chest, rocking back and forth. Her skin was pale, clammy, but her eyes were wide, unblinking. At 3:12 a.m., she whispered. They're walking through the walls. I told her it was just nerves, exhaustion. But then I heard it too. Bare feet sliding across linoleum, soft as breath, but circling us. When I finally looked, her forearm wasn't just marked anymore. The bruise pattern of stars had spread up her veins, curling toward her shoulder. One of them pulsed brighter than the others. I knew that pattern. It matched my own, only hers was moving faster. The system was eating her alive. She wasn't bound to the 8-hour cycle. She was on fast forward. She stared into the stainless steel door of the break room fridge. I saw her face in it, distorted. But the reflection was smiling. Wide. Wrong. Maria raised her hands to her face, but in the reflection, her hands stayed at her sides. I yanked her away, but not before I saw her reflection mouth words again. Answer me. Down the service tunnel, the laughter started up again. This time, deeper. Male. Mocking. Maria shook violently. I can't, not again. I'll go with it if it'll stop. No, I barked, too loud, too desperate. You follow the rules, Maria. You don't give in. But she wasn't listening. She was already mumbling back, voice breaking. Little fragments of replies. The laughter swelled into a chorus. The lights buzzed overhead. Her mark burned white. Mine burned black. The laugh cut off like a knife. Silence so thick it felt alive. Then Maria looked at me. And for a heartbeat, I wasn't sure it was her. Her pupils were gone. Just pools of black, reflecting starlight where her eyes should have been. Rule 9, she whispered in a voice that wasn't her own. If you see yourself standing in a hallway where you shouldn't be, run. And then she collapsed, limp in my arms. I laid her down, shaking. My scar stopped pulsing. But hers kept going, bright as a beacon. 8 stars. 8 rules. Now 2 of us marked. The spiral wasn't waiting for dawn anymore. It was accelerating. And if Maria was already this far gone in a single night, I knew what was coming. We weren't going to make it to the end together. Maria came back to consciousness around 4 a.m. But it wasn't the same Maria. When she spoke, it was like she was speaking 2 ways at once. Her lips barely moved, but the words hit me from inside my skull. She doesn't want you to leave. She doesn't want anyone to leave. Her regular voice broke through right after, soft and shaking. Did I say that out loud? She didn't even know. The service corridor shimmered like heat rising off asphalt. One hallway forked into 3, each one stretching further than the building's blueprint should have allowed. In the far left hall, I saw Maria standing upright. Her twin. Perfect copy. The real Maria clutched my arm, gasping. I didn't move, I swear I didn't move. The copy raised its hand and waved. Slow. Deliberate. I remembered her warning, her other voice. Rule 9. Run. So I yanked her away, dragging us down the middle corridor. Behind us, the sound of bare feet slapping tile chased after. The Flamingo groaned as if it were alive. Pipes clanged. Vents rattled. The walls flexed like something was breathing behind them. An old chandelier in the service hallway shattered, raining glass on the floor. Every shard reflected not us, but fragments of sky. Not Vegas sky. A void scattered with too many stars. The same pattern in my scar. The same burning constellation crawling across Maria's arm. We stumbled into a maintenance closet. Inside, the walls were streaked with a brown-red smear, dried into patterns. At first I thought it was just graffiti from some old janitor. But the pattern was the same spiral. Crude. Hand-drawn. And scrawled in the middle, in shaky block letters. Don't let her speak through you. Maria stared at it like she'd written it herself. Her lips trembled. Too late. In the back of the closet, a window had appeared. No view of the strip, no neon glow. Just an endless black field of stars. Maria stepped toward it, entranced. The marks on her arm flared, each star glowing like a beacon. One by one, they blinked in time with the lights outside. The Flamingo's neon stuttering as though syncing with her pulse. Don't, I begged, pulling her back. But she whispered something I couldn't stop hearing. "She's opening the door." The window hummed, and I realized the stars inside it were moving closer. Not stars. Eyes. Watching. The window wasn't a window anymore. It breathed. The glass fogged from the inside, like lungs pressing against it. Every exhale carried the smell of ash and old perfume, sharp enough to sting my eyes. Maria whispered, "She's here." But when I turned, Maria's mouth wasn't moving. We fled the maintenance closet, but the hallway outside was wrong. The carpet pattern had shifted. Pink flamingo feathers now spiraled into the same star constellation crawling up our arms. And the walls stretched on longer than they should. Every door was locked. Every sign was reversed, letters mirrored backward. It wasn't the flamingo anymore. It was something wearing the flamingo like a mask. She gripped my wrist hard enough to bruise. Her nails dug in, drawing blood, but she didn't even notice. "She doesn't want the lights anymore," Maria said. Then another voice, hers but older, heavier, followed immediately. "She prefers the dark corridors. She always has." Maria clutched her head, whimpering. "Make her stop. Please." But I couldn't. I could only hold her there, both of us trembling in the flickering neon glow that barely kept the blackness at bay. When we finally reached the service door that opened back onto the main casino, I thought we were safe. But the floor had transformed. The slot machines were gone. In their place, hundreds of black chairs, facing one direction. Toward the stage. On it, a woman stood in silhouette. Her outline was shifting, long hair drifting like it was suspended underwater. Her face was hidden, but her presence pressed against me like a tidal wave. Maria collapsed to her knees, gasping, as though the air had been pulled out of her lungs. The mark on her arm glowed brighter than ever. I looked up. The grand chandelier above the casino wasn't glass anymore. It was bones-fused vertebrae and ribs, wired together, swaying gently. From it hung cords of hair that dripped black liquid onto the floor. Each drop hit the carpet like a ticking clock. Tick. 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 The woman on stage raised her hand. I heard her voice echo through every surface: walls, floor, ceiling. "Rule breaker." My scar burned like fire. Maria screamed and covered her ears. "Step forward. Take your seat." All those empty chairs. Waiting. The rules had never mentioned this part. No page in the binder told me what to do now. And yet he knew. Every instinct screamed at me. If I sat down, I wouldn't stand up again. The woman on stage didn't move at first. Her outline shimmered in the glow of 1,000 phantom lights, like she was being projected through layers of smoke. Maria clutched my arm so tightly it went numb. "She's not supposed to come this close," she whispered, but it wasn't her voice, Anna Maria. It was too steady, too calm. The stage lights flared. And then I saw her. Her face wasn't hidden by shadow. It was shadow. Blackness draped in the shape of a woman, rimmed with a crown of stars that pulsed like wounds in the sky. Her eyes were not eyes. They were moving constellations. Shapes I couldn't name, shifting and reforming, like the whole night sky was watching me from behind her gaze. She smiled, and when she did, every bulb in the casino went out at once. We were blind in her night. When she spoke, it wasn't sound, it was gravity. It pressed me to my knees, stole my breath, rattled my bones. "Little sentinel." The word echoed through my chest. "You keep watch where the veil is thin. You count the hours that belong to me." Maria convulsed beside me. Her mark blazed white-hot, lighting her veins like rivers of fire. I tried to drag her back, but she clutched her own throat, gasping. And through her lips, Nick spoke again. "There is no dawn here. There is only the hour I allow." The chairs creaked. One by one, they filled. Not with people, but with shadows, outlines of guests who had never left. Their faces were blurred, but their eyes glowed dimly, like stars fading out. Each one turned toward me. "Sit," Nyx commanded through Maria's mouth. If I sat, I'd be one of them. Another shadow in her theater of night. If I ran, the rules offered no protection. No guideline covered this. This was beyond the paper list stuffed in my locker. I don't know why I did it. Maybe panic. Maybe instinct. But instead of running or sitting, I spoke. "The rules don't belong to you." The silence that followed was unbearable. Even Maria froze. Even the shadows stopped breathing. Then Nyx leaned forward. Her constellation eyes flared. "Then whose do they belong to, Sentinel?" Her grin widened. And I realized she wanted me to say it. She wanted me to give it shape. The next rule. The hidden one. And if I said it wrong, I knew there'd be no coming back. My throat burned. Every instinct screamed, "Don't speak, don't give her anything." But silence was worse. Her eyes, the stars inside them, pulled at me, demanding words. So I gave her one. "If she asks you to sit," I gasped, "don't look at the chair. Look at the floor." It spilled out of me like it had always been written, though I'd never read it. Maria's scream split the room. The shadows shrieked in unison, their heads snapping backward as if something had broken their necks. Nyx tilted her head. And she laughed. Not the cruel laughter from the halls, but something worse, pleased. "Yes. The ninth is spoken." The veil thins. The casino floor buckled. Carpet peeled away like skin, exposing concrete that wasn't concrete. At a lit was black glass, reflecting stars that weren't ours. Maria collapsed, seizing. Her mark spread past her shoulder, crawling up her neck now, constellations burning like open sores. I tried to pull her back, but her hands locked around mine with unnatural strength. "Don't let go," she choked. Her eyes rolled white. And through her lips, Nyx whispered. "Now you carry her with you." Every empty seat dissolved into shadow, collapsing inward like paper set aflame. The room shrank with it. Stage, chandelier, walls, everything folded into the black glass below. We were left standing in the service hallway again. Fluorescent lights buzzing. No stage. No shadows. Just silence. But the rule remained. Burned into me. Rule 9. When she woke, she didn't remember what had happened. But she wasn't Maria anymore, not fully. She repeated strange fragments under her breath. "Don't count past 8. Don't drink the water at dawn. Don't. More rules. Ones I hadn't read. Ones I wasn't supposed to know yet. Her mark was still glowing faintly when she finally fell asleep against the wall. I sat there beside her, staring at my scar. It pulsed once. Twice. And I realized something that froze me solid. Nyx didn't just want me to survive. She was teaching me how. Maria didn't dream. She recited. Lying there in the service corridor, head on my jacket, she whispered lists. Fragments. Orders. Keep the curtains closed. Don't answer the ringing phone if it stops after the first ring. Don't touch the carpet if it turns wet. Don't look at the mirrors on even hours. Each one landed heavy. Like she was pulling rules out of the air itself. When I checked her arm, I realized the stars weren't bruises anymore. They were ink. Sharp, defined, tattooed beneath her flesh without needle or blade. Constellations I didn't recognize stretched across her veins, moving upward toward her throat. When I touched the skin, it burned cold. And then I noticed the new one forming. A spiral, smaller than mine, etched at the base of her neck. At 5:10 a.m., I heard the ringing again. One long ring. Then silence. Maria's eyes opened instantly. "No," she whispered, staring at the ceiling. "Don't answer." It hadn't been a phone. It had been the service bell from the front desk 40 feet away, clear as day, even though we were deep underground. "Don't answer," she repeated, voice cracking. Tears streamed down her cheeks, but she wasn't crying. The words were pushing through her. Her tone shifted suddenly, flattening into something mechanical. "The night belongs to me. He is mine to test. Do not interfere." Her lips kept moving after the words stopped, soundless, like a broken recording. And then she went still. Breathing. Alive. But gone somewhere else. I sat there with her limp body, shaking, listening to the silence stretch around us. Maria wasn't just a victim. She wasn't just marked like me. She was being rewritten. Each new rule, she muttered, wasn't for her. It was for me. A script delivered straight from Nyx, forced out through her body like an unwilling typewriter. The rules weren't guidelines anymore. They were commands. And I couldn't shake the feeling that breaking them wasn't just dangerous. It was exactly what Nyx wanted me to do. Maria woke just after 5:30 a.m. She didn't remember whispering. Didn't remember the phone that wasn't a phone. But she had written something on her own hand. Scrawled in jagged letters, like she'd done it while half asleep. "Don't open the door if it knocks 3 times. Her skin was inked with it. Not pen. Not marker. Burned in like the constellation tattoos. I should have listened. Should have treated it like gospel. But I needed proof. At 5:44, the sound came. 3 knocks. Slow. Heavy. The kind that rattled through the frame of the service door like a heartbeat. Maria sat bolt upright, eyes wide. "Nana, please don't." I ignored her. I turned the handle. The door opened into the service hall. Empty. But the smell hit me first. Sour, metallic, like coins soaking in old water. And then I saw it. Not a person. Not a guest. A shadow pressed flat against the opposite wall, like someone had been ironed into it. Arms spread wide, legs twisted wrong, head lolling but still staring straight at me. Its mouth moved. The sound didn't come from its lips but from inside the walls. "Rule breaker." Maria screamed. Her constellation marks flared white-hot, and she collapsed, writhing. I slammed the door shut. The knocking stopped instantly. But the damage was done. When I lifted her head, I saw the new mark bleeding through her skin. 3 spirals this time. Stacked like a warning. Her breathing slowed. Too slow. And through clenched teeth, she whispered. "Don't test them. They're not rules. They're locks. Locks. Not instructions for survival." Each one she gave me wasn't about keeping me safe. It was about keeping something else contained. And I had just opened one. The first sign came at 6:02 a.m. The casino floor went quiet. Every slot machine froze mid-spin, reels stuck, lights dead. No payout sounds, no jingles. Just silence. And then every machine displayed the same image. 000. 3 zeros. The exact number of spirals burned into Maria's skin. Walking the service corridor, I heard it behind me. Not echoing. Not natural. 3 steps. Pause. 3 steps. Pause. I spun around each time. Empty hallway. But the dust on the floor shifted in patterns, like footprints dragging through. She couldn't stand. Her voice was weak, whisper thin, but her words carried weight. You opened one. Now it follows. It doesn't need doors anymore. She tried to grab my arm, but her hand shook too violently. I told you they relocks. I asked her how many there were. She just cried. Too many. At 6:30, I passed the staff elevators. The doors slid open on their own. Inside, the lights flickered, and I saw it. The same shadow figure, pressed against the back wall. Flat. Distorted. But this time, its head snapped toward me. I didn't hear it with my ears, but the word rattled in my skull. Rule breaker. The doors closed before I could move. The elevator began to descend, even though no one had pressed the button. My scar burned. Not just the usual pulse this time, it seared so bad I thought it would split my skin open. When I rolled up my sleeve, I saw the spiral stretching, uncoiling. It wasn't just a mark anymore. It was turning. Like a key in a lock. I thought the rules were here to protect me. But what if they were never about safety at all? What if every rule is a lock? And every time one breaks, something else gets out. At 7:01 a.m., the Flamingo changed. The strip outside still buzzed with neon, but inside, the casino floor looked abandoned. Tables overturned. Chairs pulled out and left mid-game. Half-empty glasses of bourbon sweating onto felt. Not a single guest in sight. Only one sound carried through the space. A dragging shuffle. The thing I'd freed finally stepped into view. It wasn't a shadow anymore. It had volume now, depth. Like the black glass from the stage had poured itself into a human outline. Arms too long. Legs bent wrong. Head tilted like a broken mannequin. Every light flickered as it moved. And when the neon hit its surface, the glow bent into it, vanishing like ink in water. It was swallowing the light whole. Maria's body convulsed when it drew closer. Her mark bled through her shirt like glowing veins. She clutched her chest and croaked. It knows you. It only knows you. And then, in Nix's voice. The lock was not yours to open, Sentinel. The thing's arm snapped outward. Not reaching, but stretching, rubber-like, fingertips grazing the edge of a craps table 20 feet away. The felt blackened instantly. Dice melted to sludge. I dragged Maria toward the service hallway, but the entity followed without sound. Every step it took shortened the distance, the room compressing around it. The walls pulsed like they were breathing. I hit the staff elevators. The doors opened on their own, waiting. I had seconds to decide, step inside and risk being trapped in a moving coffin, or stay in the casino with that thing closing in. Maria screamed, "Don't look inside." But I already had. And I saw it. The shadow, waiting in the back, arms wide. The same one I'd freed. The same one stalking me now. Two of them. Or maybe the same one, everywhere at once. The doors started to close. The thing on the casino floor raised its arm. The thing in the elevator lunged forward. And my scar seared like fire, spiraling open, demanding something of me. Not survival. Not escape. It wanted me to choose which door to lock again. The doors slammed shut on my hesitation. Not because I pressed the button. But because the mark on my chest burned them closed. I hadn't chosen fast enough. So the thing chose for me. I felt my knees hit the carpet as if something had yanked the tendons out of me. My vision went black at the edges, tunneled down to the elevator's brushed steel doors. In the reflection, I saw both entities merging. The elevator shade pressing outward. The casino floor horror folding inward. They collapsed into each other like a pair of shadows at noon. The mark dragged itself across my skin, rethreading, pulling into a circle that wasn't mine. And I understood. I hadn't locked it. It had locked me. Maria knelt, pressing her palm flat against the carpet to steady herself. Her voice trembled, half hers, half something borrowed from the dark. "You're the vessel now." She didn't say it like an accusation. She said it like a funeral rite. The Flamingo shuddered. Every slot machine spun at once. Coins clattered, reels blurred. Cards flipped on empty blackjack tables. The entire casino floor screamed in digital static, the building itself rejecting me, or maybe recognizing me. The surveillance monitors in security lit up one by one. Every camera showed the same figure. Me. Not in real time. In futures. I saw myself running. Bleeding. Begging. And finally, standing still in perfect darkness. My scar blistered and peeled. From inside it, I heard her voice. "Nix. Sentinel no longer. You are tether. You are door. You are mine." Maria grabbed my shoulders and shook me so hard I bit my tongue. "Listen to me. You've got one chance. One. If you stay in this building until sunrise tomorrow, you won't leave at all. You'll become the lock." Her eyes flicked upward at the ceiling, like something was watching from just beyond the plaster. "You have to cut the mark loose. Before it roots." But the problem was this. The mark wasn't just on my chest anymore. It had threaded into the carpet. Up the walls. Across the roulette wheel. Into the neon tubing overhead. I was everywhere. And if I tried to cut it out, I wasn't sure if I'd survive the bleeding. I thought the hardest part would be facing Nix. I was wrong. The hardest part was deciding whether I wanted to live with what she left inside me. Every breath tasted like velvet smoke. Every step sent ripples down the carpet, as if the floor had veins connected straight into my chest. I wasn't standing in the Flamingo anymore. I was standing as it. Maria's voice fought to reach me through the static in my skull. "Cut it loose, damn you. Before sunrise." But the rules were clear. Rule 1, don't ignore the mark. And here I was, ignoring it with every second of hesitation. I didn't have silver. I didn't have salt. I didn't have holy water. But I had something better. Something the rules had hinted at all along. The cigarette lighter. The one they gave me on day one. The one I thought was just for lighting incense in the ritual room nobody ever explained. I flicked it open, flame quivering blue. The mark pulsed. The whole casino floor pulsed with it. I knew burning it out would scar me. Not just skin, but soul. But if I didn't, I'd end up like the others. Earl, Frank, Maria. Cautionary tales with no exit. I pressed the flame into the spiral. The pain wasn't fire. It was unweaving. Every thought, every memory, every instinct pulled loose like threads in a carpet. I heard voices that weren't mine scream as they were cut away. The hotel lights exploded one by one in showers of sparks. The slot machines went silent. The air grew thin, as if the Flamingo itself was gasping its last breath. And through it all, Nix's voice. "Ungrateful sentinel. You close the door and kill the house. You will leave hollow." The mark shriveled black. The carpet went still. The mirrors showed only me. Just me. For the first time in months. Then the walls shook. The ground tilted. Maria grabbed my arm, dragging me toward the exit. "Run. It's going down. You didn't just cut her out of you, you cut her out of here." We burst through the employee entrance into the dawn. And behind us, the Flamingo didn't collapse into rubble. It collapsed into silence. Every window turned black. Every neon bulb winked out. The whole casino hushed like a dead man's mouth. The strip kept roaring around it, drunk tourists, traffic, music. But the Flamingo stood mute. Empty. They paid me out the next day. Cash. An envelope slid under the motel door. No name. No return address. Just enough bills to leave town if I wanted. Maria didn't stick around. She said she had family in Reno. I never saw her again. The mark is gone. But when I close my eyes, I still hear her. Nix. Not angry anymore. Not demanding. Just waiting. And if you ever work night security in Las Vegas, listen to me. Don't take the job if the rules sound strange. Because the strangest one of all is the one they never tell you. Rule 0, the door always finds a new lock.